Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, or stream us anywhere with the Moody Radio app, other streaming services, and at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
The Supreme Court will hear a case today that will decide if former President Donald Trump is ineligible for a second term in office. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. Justices will hear arguments on the Colorado Supreme Court's ruling disqualifying Trump from appearing on the state's ballot. The former president's legal team argues that Trump's actions around the attack do not amount to insurrection. With the one-year anniversary of a train derailment in East Palestine having just passed, the NTSB is preparing to consider findings of the investigation into the accident. A June 25th hearing has been scheduled at East Palestine High School to determine the cause of the accident. And University of Akron Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer Dallas Grundy says he will soon depart the school. Grundy's last day at the university will be March 15th. 10 days later, he begins his new role as CFO at the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. I'll be right back with sports and weather.
It's not insurance, and that's a new way of thinking for some families. Christian Healthcare Ministries is a credible way to meet family healthcare costs affordably, biblically, and effectively, whether starting or growing your family. Serving families as a nonprofit healthcare sharing ministry for over 40 years, CHM has offered families the freedom to choose how they would like to meet healthcare costs. Be pleasantly surprised and find answers to your questions at chministries.org/Moody. That's chministries.org/Moody.
In sports, the Cavaliers extended their winning streak to 7 following a 114-106 victory over the Wizards. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Partly sunny skies today with highs around 60 degrees. Right now, mostly cloudy and 40 degrees in Cleveland, 34 Akron and Canton, 39 in Youngstown.
It's time for your moron moment.
To most Polish Americans, Punchki Day means making a ton of punchki and binge eating them in the company of family and friends. This day is celebrated the Thursday before Lent. And since Lent is a time of sacrifice, punchki were created to use up a household supply of things that the family would not be able to eat during Lenten fasting. Punchki Day is the perfect excuse, as if we needed one, to eat one of the famous, delicious Polish pastry. Similar to a donut, punchki are a sugary pastry that combines glossy doughs with a delicious fruit filling. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 6:03 with Moody Radio News. I'm Ron Eastwood.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Happy Thursday. It's Dave Szfranski Day. He's going to answer your financial questions later. But we have a whole bunch of things I want to give a little sneak preview to, and then I've got a shout out. I don't normally do shout outs, but it's not to a person, so fear not.
Oh, we won't fear then.
Ron,
I just
he
said my
fear
safety
not.
word. Gosh darn it.
Yes. Let
I
me
said
find that thing.
It's been so long.
They're adding up.
We all have crutch phrases we
It's been
use.
like 3 weeks.
Like if you have a friend in your life, or I hope you do. If you have a colleague or anyone you interact with today, I'm sorry to do this to you, but ignore what they're saying for a moment and listen to the words they use. And you're going to see safe words. You're going to see like catchphrases. Like for one relative of mine, everything's phenomenal.
Okay.
They don't
I
know
love
that
that.
everything's phenomenal, but that's how they describe like food,
Well, that's what they think.
experiences. It's like the one adjective they have when they love something.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice.
One of my words is fear not. And it's just because maybe I'm just so biblical. Is that because Jesus says that a lot, right, Lauren?
You're
Right?
angelic, because angels always say, fear not.
Ladies,
Bringing tidings of good news and great joy.
would you like to second his motion? Anyone?
No.
Oh, sorry,
We
Daria.
can't hear Daria.
Can we?
Hello.
Hello, is she
There
on?
we go.
Hi. Good morning.
Hi. Would you like to second his motion that I'm angelic?
Oh, I said something that you couldn't hear.
Daria for the win again. Goodness sakes.
Mm.
But hey, so we can't avoid something, but I want to remind you before we get to it that this is a nonpartisan radio station, nonpartisan radio network, nonpartisan team. Not because we're scared of anything or because it's an ideological idea. Like we love Jesus so much here that we are really primarily / virtually exclusively concerned about the Lord Jesus.
Yeah.
And what he wants of us and his transformational power through his life, death, and resurrection. Okay. There's other people I know that love him, but they love America or American politics almost as much. And I get it, and that's fine. I'm not mad at you. You do what you want to do, boo.
Yeah, but people from all stripes have donated to make Moody Radio a possibility, and we're not going to twist their intentions to do something other.
No. And we want you to have your clear conscience with the Lord and how you approach your life. So you do that. But that also means like we really mean it that we're nonpartisan. So don't like some people are trying to listen like they're, I don't know, Sherlock Holmes or something. Like I'm going to listen and then we're going to hear Lauren say it. It's going to be some phrase or word where we go, ha! I knew it. She's fill in the blank.
There are no subliminal messages.
No, because what you can fill in there is, I knew it. She's a follower of Jesus doing her best to follow him. That's what it is. The end. Me, Ron, everybody. But we also can't avoid that today the Supreme Court's going to be hearing one of the most important / controversial / consequential cases since Bush v. Gore in like 2000.
Yeah, it could literally change the outcome of the election before it even happens.
Right. It's on the 14th Amendment. If you're not familiar, go look it up. I did print it off, and it's really riveting reading. It's very long, the 14th Amendment. If you look at the Bill of Rights, it's like everything's pretty succinct.
Yeah.
Once we got past the 10th Amendment, it's like everybody wanted to write a lot of words. But we'll talk about that with Mark Caleb Smith today. So buckle up. Again, don't do secret listening. We're not going to try to do anything partisan anyway. We want to actually just learn what in the world is happening.
Yeah.
Like a basic civics lesson with a Christian political scientist. What is the 14th Amendment? What does it mean? What's the Supreme Court's job? What specifically are they going to be looking at in the 14th Amendment to figure out how to decide the case?
Right. It's a Colorado case that's been bumped up into their court. Is there specifics of the ruling in Colorado that they're looking at? Or will they be expanding their view to a greater purveyance of that? Who knows? Mark Caleb Smith knows. That's why we called him.
And again, if you're looking for our complaint line, if you want to have an email open and ready to go, it's ronald.eastwood@moody.edu. We're going to be talking to Dr. Mark Caleb Smith from 7:30 to 8 today, okay? So you're welcome to text in questions as well throughout it. Can't promise we'll get to them, but if it's a super partisan question, I can promise we won't get to it.
Yeah.
Haha. Okay. I guess that part was unnecessary, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Lauren.
You don't
Fear
need to be
not.
sorry to me. Ron, he said fear not.
I'm just going to keep saying
Come
it.
on. There it goes.
Fear not, Lauren. There's another one just for you. I just want you to fill up your little bin there of things.
Yeah, Trey wants me to take my beads home, so let's get this going here.
If you're watching the live stream, you know what's happening. Text live to 440-546-2255. All right, so yesterday we started something really interesting that I can't let just slip and slide all the way to Friday, and we might not even get to it, because I like to analyze things on Friday more deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is there's a guy that wrote for churchleaders.com, Todd Corpy, and he has 8 missional shifts for the church in 2024. And as a quick reminder, he has a basic thesis that we seem to agree with, but I want to make sure we still do after a good night's sleep. He said, most Christians recognize that in 2024, we're at something of an inflection point in the normal rhythms of evangelical church life. Some attribute this to the changes wrought by COVID-19, others to political and ideological polarization, and still others to phenomena like secularization, globalization, and deconstructionism. But whatever the reasons, here it is, most can sense that change is afoot, and to flourish in the emerging present, churches must adapt. Like, Brian version, the world's gone crazy, yo. Everything's changing a lot. People are mad at each other about lots of things. And we must adapt if we're going to thrive. Is that, you still agree with that guy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Feel
Except
good?
the yo, but
Except the Lauren was almost going to say amen. I think her mic was off, though, when I said that. Wasn't that right?
Yeah.
Nonverbals could speak. Again, text live to 440-546-2255. Check out the live stream. We talked yesterday about how he brought up you need to move from digitally primitive to digitally savvy. Not like, hey, guys, look we're on the internet. No, it needs to be so ingrained in what you do. It's almost like an unspoken. Like, we need to digitally integrate so that people go, yeah, Christians, they know what's going on digitally. We don't even need to talk about that because we know.
mm-hmm.
We've got our apps, we've got our internet, we've got our slick, amazing live stream, whatever it is, okay? We've talked about some other things, but I want to get to a few more after a quick break here. And one of them is, he thinks we need to move from behavior modification to virtue formation. We've talked a lot for decades in America about behavior modification. Like, you're doing these things, world, Christians, stop doing those things. We need to stop doing that and do something else. He calls it virtue formation. What is that? We'll get to it here right after this.
You have less than a month to prepare to gather with like-minded men facing similar challenges and needing encouragement like you. Walkworthy 2024 is Saturday, March 2nd at Canton Baptist Temple. It will feature Mark Joe, James Ford, and Nick Gatsky giving powerful messages as well as time for worship and food. Don't miss out. Register now. Text WALK to 440-546-2255 or go to moodyconferences.com.
No matter your age or season of life, there's always something more to learn and skills to gain. Moody Enrich is Moody Bible Institute's new lifelong learning venue. The focus is on personal enrichment and professional development through video courses and e-courses starting at just $14.99. You'll gain life-changing understanding of Scripture and expand your ministry and professional skills. Explore the courses that may be of help and interest to you. Go to moody.edu/enrich. moody.edu/enrich. Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
I can hardly remember what I'm going to say in my own life. And so I forgot a couple things I wanted to say. One of them was my wife's going to be here tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
All morning, she's
Follow
our Friday guest. So she's going to be part of Follow Up Friday. Does that mean, Lauren, that people can like text in questions for my wife
Yes,
about
absolutely.
me or us?
Please do.
Wow.
You can even do it now, and I'll set them aside.
Oh, wait, did her schedule just change? No, yeah, I mean, you really could ask her anything. She's fantastic. That's why I married her, and you're going to enjoy it. And you ladies.
You're gonna.
Oh, yeah, I mean, how could you not? It's Sarah. She's
Right.
I mean,
best.
if I married her, you know she's awesome.
And text live to 440-546-2255 because she is quite lovely as well.
Yeah, in fact, the warning, it may be too much for you.
Mhm.
It is fun to see people's spouses when you hear about them a lot,
Yeah.
and you have like what you picture them to be in your head, and you're like, that's not what I thought.
And,
Always fun.
well, and then I remember one of the first times I was here and I brought Sarah somewhere and I was able to, as people came and said hello to me, I was like, oh, and this is my wife, Sarah. They get super excited. I got so many points that day. Like, he talks about you so much. He loves you so much. I was like,
yeah.
exactly.
Aw.
Do you hear that, babe? So I got like 1 point for that, and it lasted the rest of the day. That's it. And then also, I was going to do a shout out. I don't normally do them. It's not to a person. I just can't get enough of this thing. It's free, so why not? There's an app called Gospel in Life.
Oh, yeah.
Gospel in Life. And what is it? It is a categorized app of Tim Keller's sermons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I hadn't listened to Tim Keller, sadly, until like, I don't know, he was at death's door. I was like, I have this thing where if people love something or someone, I'm like, I don't want that. And then I find out later that people knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And in this case, man, he loves Jesus and he can preach. And I'm listening. I can't stop listening to his sermons. And I'm not even a sermon listen guy. No offense, pastors, but I need me one sermon a week, and that's my fill.
Okay.
Unless it's Gospel in Life, the app. I find myself coming into this station and quickly transcribing something he said. I did it again today. So Gospel in Life, it's free. Don't do it now because you're listening to our show. Just do it later. Maybe your commute home.
I'm with you on Tim Keller. I never listened. You know, there's the core of Moody people, Swindoll, MacArthur, Tony Evans, you know, that I always think of. And then there's the outsiders, the John Piper and Tim Keller, for example, Max Lucado, guys who aren't on Moody Radio as a regular. So I think of them as second-tier preachers or something. But everyone spoke so highly of Tim as he was passing. I went and I looked up his program on the podcast app and listened to one, and I was like, man, he is really good. And he's a teaching pastor. He's not going to get all fired up and call out for response, you know, hey, can I get an amen there? Right? Come on now. You know, no, he's just telling in a straight and steady voice, more like a lecture than some kind of an entertainment.
Yes.
And it's very good. I like it a lot.
Well, and I would tell you as well that you have to know his audience, which makes it even more interesting. He planted a church in Manhattan, perhaps one of the most hostile places to a church. And there was revival.
At least
broke
in this
out.
country.
Well, right. Yeah. In this country. Yeah. Thank you for that. And essentially, like, revival broke out. His church exploded. And when you listen to him, you know he's speaking to people who are not only very wealthy, but also very successful and likely very secular. And he's teaching them the Bible. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So anyway, he didn't ask me for that for a lot of reasons. Gospel in Life. Gospel in Life.
If you had, we'd have to have a different conversation, Brian.
Yes, we would. Yes, we would. Okay, so if you're just tuning in, yesterday we started talking about 4 missional shifts /8. There's 2 articles. 8 missional shifts for the church in 2024, according to Todd Corpy at churchleaders.com. He thinks that because the world is so polarized and changing so quickly, the church needs to adapt. We need to shift in order to thrive in this new environment in which we live. And he's made some suggestions. The one I want to get to now is he thinks we need to shift as the church from behavior modification to virtue formation. Here's what he means. In his book, Transforming Worldviews, anthropologist Paul Hebert addressed how Christianity has often emphasized belief and behavior change in our missional work at the expense of deep and lasting worldview change. He notes that there is an evaluative layer, referring to like virtues, ethics, and norms, that exists below our beliefs and behavior that, if left untransformed by the gospel, creates dysfunction in Christian discipleship. If beliefs and behavior only are discipled, but the deepest parts of who we are remain unchanged, it produces syncretism, a veneer of Christianity with non-Christian core. This lies at the heart of much of the dysfunctions we see in North American Christianity today. But virtue and ethics formation rested at the very heart of what the church fathers and mothers focused on. That's what they did, the early church, virtue. We would do well to shift away from an approach to raising people up in the faith that focuses simply checking off the right doctrinal boxes and making sure they don't smoke, chew, and run with girls that do. Or he says ones, but it's girls that do. That's an old-timey phrase. Isn't that funny? Instead, we should help people be radically changed by the vision of kingdom ethics Jesus presents in the Sermon on the Mount. We should glean from the wisdom of the great tradition that's been passed down to us by the apostles. We should get to the very heart of transformation, which lies in shaping our virtues. So a couple things he's claiming. He's claiming that our primary focus at the moment is on theology, right theology, and behavior modification. Is that a fair assessment?
I think it is.
Ladies? Like he's saying, not exclusively, but the church is primarily focused on this is good, this is bad, do this, don't do that. This is right theology. If you don't agree, you're wrong.
Right. I think he's onto something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I don't think he would say that those things are bad either. I mean, you need to have right theology. And right and wrong behavior matters.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are accurate. I mean, but even just recently we saw it seems like we just have maybe a week between enormous theological debates on social media where a group of Christians decide that a person previously celebrated is now essentially on a highway to hell. Like that's what we do now is we're like, are you in or are you out? In, out, in, out, in, out.
Right.
And he's saying, no, we can't do that. We've got to actually form deeper ethics. And then he suggests, like, the ethics displayed by Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount. I remember, how many times I've read that, and you kind of go, oh, Jesus, that's so nice. Meek, oh, good idea. Anyway, back to the rules.
Yeah.
Let's get back to telling me what's right and wrong so I can tell people what they're doing. I can change it. He, like, as Sky Jatani says, a pastor and podcaster now, he goes, what if Jesus was serious? What if he is actually serious about Sermon on the Mount? And we called people to deep, uncomfortable virtue change.
I think some people are just way too stuck in Levitical law. Like, obviously, the rules in the Bible were there for a reason, and many of them are still applicable today. But, and I've said this before, you can't tell someone who doesn't know God, well, God doesn't want you to live like this. God doesn't want you to do this when they don't even believe in God.
Right.
I liken it to earlier this week, Lauren was talking about gentle parenting. You need to change their heart. You can't just spank them and expect them to change and behave. Now they're just going to be sneaky about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it is true that we need to know right from wrong, and we do need to understand theology. But if that's the core basis of your faith, like you're only at the starting blocks.
Just knowing the right theology, you mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jesus calls us to much more, like dramatic life transformation, because what he's saying essentially, if you know the theology and you know right from wrong, the starting block is now you know you deserve hell.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet I died for you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the depths of your depravity and I loved you anyway. And I died for you. Now follow me. But so many people just park at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if you look at the Sermon on the Mount, as this guy suggests, let's look at it real quick. The Beatitudes at the beginning. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him. For the kingdom of heaven is theirs. This is New Living Translation, by the way. God blesses those who mourn, for they'll be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they'll be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. And then he goes on very shortly after that to do the salt and light. Remember, you're the salt of the earth and light of the world. He's not saying pour salt on wounds and tell people they're right or wrong. He gets to the end and says, in the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. Like, that's what he just said. That's hard. That doesn't make you uncomfortable. Are you really reading it? Are you taking him seriously? I mean, pure in heart, humble, mourn, peace. Ugh. Those are hard things. It's easier to go, you're wrong.
Yeah, and to hold your theology and like just count, cast out people that are wrong or don't think the same way you do. So you're saying that you've never gotten it wrong? Or that you've never not had a full understanding of what that theological concept is? No. You didn't know what it was before you were taught, so why are you not willing to give someone else the grace and room to work out their faith and to figure it out?
Yeah, because, I mean, isn't the basis of it all we don't know anything and we need Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
And yet if we walk around acting like we know everything, do you even need him? Probably not. You're just using the scripture as some sort of like rules and etiquette book. Like which fork is which. I still don't even know.
Me either.
And there's a spoon up there? Isn't there on the top?
Yeah, I think that's
dessert?
Dessert spoon?
There's a couple knives?
Spoon? Doesn't matter.
Who knows?
You go outward in.
Okay, well, I've heard that before.
But what about up, Dario? What about this up spoon?
There's nothing down. What do I do?
On your plate needs a spoon. The spoon is for that.
Dario, I got to put something on the plate when I'm ready for this. I got to put the napkin here when I'm ready for that. Let me just go and give me one fork, one knife, and I'm fine. But all that to say, I think a lot of American Christianity, he's right, is really based more on in and out and right and wrong. Again, not that those don't matter, but what matters much more deeply is true heart transformation, totally inside out, doing things that are hard and difficult. And in terms of internal transformation to the point that you kind of go, I don't like this, but I'm going to do it because Jesus calls me to do it. And he died for me. Why wouldn't I do these hard things? It's reading the Sermon on the Mount and not just going, oh, that's cute that he created some utopia that no one can do. No, it's going, wow, he really wants me to do that? Uh-huh.
And when you follow him, it's not that hard anymore. You start doing what he wants you to do, and that becomes natural.
Yes. Because you know that just like Paul, you're going, man, I know what's supposed to be right, but I don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty crazy. I love what he's saying. I just don't know, like we talk about that here a lot. A lot. Life transformation, mind transformation, heart transformation. And sometimes I wish I could make people want more. But I can't.
I think that's trying to give ourselves too much power. Like we've talked before about how you can't make your kids believe in God. You can't, regardless of what you say, make someone else come to the faith. The Holy Spirit has to do his work.
Right. Right. We're working so hard to try to rule people into the kingdom. Like, rule. This is the rule, that's the rule, you're doing it, you're not doing it. When Jesus essentially says, if you do all these things, people are going to see your life and they're going to see it's so different from everybody else in the whole world that they're going to go, there's something different about the way you live in every aspect. And I want that. I don't think that's what we're doing. We're walking around with a list of rules. Me too. I do it. I do it too. 6:33, time for a quick break. I love this article. There's more ideas he has for how the church can shift in 2024. Missional shifts in the church so we can thrive in a really polarized world.
I'm Barb Carine, and this is Pause for Prayer. A group of high school students visit with Grandma Peggy every Wednesday morning for what they call the Breakfast Club. It was started by Peggy's grandson, Sam, who tragically passed away in a car accident. Though Sam was now gone, a dozen of his friends would still visit Grandma Peggy to enjoy breakfast with her. Sam would be so proud, Peggy said. Look at what he started. It melts my heart. A Breakfast Club member said, we benefit from her, and she benefits from us. It's like we feed off each other. Would you pray with me? Lord Jesus, we need each other. You created us for community, but it's easy to withdraw from people because of our experience with challenging or painful relationships, or not reach out because of fear of rejection or fear of what am I getting myself into. People can bring us the most joy and also the most pain. Help us, Lord, to be quick to forgive, for love covers a multitude of sins, to be like you, Jesus, for you forgave each of us when we didn't deserve it. Thank you for these students that did not forget about Grandma Peggy when their friend died, but saw the value not only of what they could do for her, but what she brings to their lives. Lord Jesus, what a beautiful example of true love. Your word tells us, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. Give us courage to step out of our comfort zone, to be a blessing to someone without any motivation or a need to get something back. Lord, melt our hearts for the sake of others so that we might melt someone else's. Remind us that when we show love and care for others, Jesus, it's like we are doing it for you. You call us to be your hands and your feet. Show us, Father, someone in need like Grandma Peggy, and inspire us to reach out, maybe even make them breakfast. In Jesus' name, amen.
This is David Harms with the ministry India Partners, and I have walked through the red light districts of Mumbai, India numerous times, and trust me, it is dark. Young girls have no joy in their eyes because they feel they have no future, and they'll be stuck in the trade for the rest of their lives. But once they get into a safe house run by India Partners, well, just listen. That is God at work, which is why for the last year we've shared powerful stories of safety, rescue, and care happening through the India Partners safe houses. These girls are safe from harm, well cared for, and introduced to the transforming and healing love of Jesus. Learn more about the power of rescue and care in a safe house at indiapartners.org/Moody.
Good morning, Cleveland. Thanks for choosing us to help you start your day. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
6:36, Mornings with Brian. We're going to have a live edition of the show right on stage at Canton Baptist Temple, Saturday, March 2nd, in the midst of preaching from Dr. Nick Gadsky, Dr. Mark Jobe, Dr. James Ford. The Walkworthy Men's Conference is coming. I've been starting to think a lot about, I was like, whoa, we only have a few weeks here to come up with something we're going to do in front of everyone. It's going to be fun because we don't script anything.
No.
So you all don't even really know, even if we plan it out, what I'm going to say to you.
We know what
Just
we're
another
doing.
day.
Yeah, we know what we're doing, but we don't script it out. Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
He doesn't even know what he's going to say.
No. And I'm, we have to have a core. I want to talk about something difficult because that's what we like to do around here. I want to demonstrate it in front of people. Live not ad lib, like planned improvisation.
It's just a conversation.
Stop being right.
I mean, if you're going to talk to a friend or your parents, you don't write down a script unless you're Gen Z.
That's it's true. Another reason to watch the show if you don't know what she's talking about or listen. So I'm trying to debate about, like, what are we going to be tiptoeing into together in front of a huge group of men? I've got some ideas we'll have to chat about later, but it's going to be spicy. You're welcome to suggest some. It's like, I bet you won't talk about this. Oh, yeah?
Are we going to make the entire room play Would You Rather?
I feel like we should.
Stand up if you would rather a
That'd
wet
be
willy.
fun.
Stand up. Oh, my goodness.
That is one of our most, we're a Christian radio show, and the wet willy or wedgie would you rather is the third most viewed video in the entire history of our channel.
Well,
yeah, if you have people stand up, if they would rather have the wedgie, the people behind them may take advantage of that.
See, now if anyone listening won't stand up, Ron, they're all going to pick the wet willy. But I guess the person behind could still do that, too. Now you're stuck. Okay, what we're actually doing, though, for a few minutes is chatting about the idea from churchleaders.com. One guy suggesting 8 missional shifts for the church, things we must shift and do differently if we want to be relevant in a polarized, really uncomfortable reality in American culture. No one would deny the world's a very different place than it was for most of our history. Christian values are no longer American values, or we can't presume that they're synonymous. So what are we going to shift? Okay, Todd Corpy says, here's another shift, shift number 5. We must, as a church, move from Bible as encyclopedia to Bible as cosmic story. Here's what he means. Most evangelicals would say they hold the Bible in high esteem. Therefore, most of us want to know what the Bible says in order to pattern our lives after its truth. But often this well-meaning desire produces an approach to the Bible that reduces the Bible to an encyclopedia of life lessons. When we approach Scripture like an answer book, we reduce the wonder of its cohesive whole. I've done this so much in my life. It's like, here's a problem. Let me open up the encyclopedia that God gave us to find out the answer.
I see.
Problem, answer. Decision, answer. That's what he's saying we do with it. You guys do that ever?
Yeah.
I don't think that I do.
Gen Z. It's a script for you?
No.
What is, okay, so you just don't approach it that way, which God bless you for that.
No, I just, I might have a reading plan, or sometimes I'll just open up to a random page and see what God's going to do with what I'm about to read, and I'll meditate on that.
Good for you. I think that's a better way to do it. But like, you know, if somebody's going, man, I don't know what to think about, let's just say the Second Amendment. Controversial topic. So I'm going to search the internet or the Bible. Oh, look at this. Jesus said, get a sword. Problem solved.
The problem with doing that is you can have literally any opinion in the world, and you can probably cherry pick a verse out of context to support your view.
Exactly. That is the problem.
Yeah.
And yet this is kind of how we've approached this. Now, Bible literacy is super important. But if all you're doing is promoting Bible literacy, like read through it, know it, read through it, know it, read through it, know it, you're treating it kind of like preparing for a quiz to have the answers, okay? And so he goes on to say, we got to do it differently. He said, we must shift away from picking up the Bible and demanding answers like millennials did with magic 8 balls in the 90s.
That's funny.
I think Gen Xers used magic 8 balls too, by the way.
Probably. They've been around a long time.
Yeah.
Instead, we have to have the opportunity and use the opportunity in 2024 to recapture the wonder of Scripture. The Bible's God's inspired story of what it means to live together as God's priesthood, bonded in covenant under the reign of Jesus the Messiah, anticipating and working together in light of the hope of the life of the world to come. Such a grand cosmic story should provoke a wonder, a curiosity, an imagination. A dull, lifeless, flat reading of the text to extrapolate disconnected moral platitudes simply will not do. What do we make of this? I don't know that he made really great handles to hang on the other way to do it, did he? Like, it's cosmic, it's big, it's wonderful.
Yeah, not really.
How would you all describe that? What he's trying to get at? It's not just an encyclopedia, it's a tough one.
Yeah, it is a book of stories.
It is.
And maybe the stories, he's saying, is becoming more appealing to those outside the church now. They're not looking for, you know, a list of do's and don'ts. They don't care about do's and don'ts. So if you appeal to them with the stories of the Bible, they may find it more interesting and then pick up things along the way.
Yeah, because I guess the cosmic story of Scripture in a wider sense is that God created a world and he wanted unity with us, but we messed it up in the garden. And so the rest of the Scriptures is the story of God reaching into human history in a very personal way by sending his own son to live on our behalf, live a perfect life, die and rise again, so that we might have intimacy with God yet again. It's a beautiful, amazing, cosmic story. How can we understand it? The Lord says, the heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. What kind of world are you what kind of home are you going to build for me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so big and so cosmic that you can't use it just as an encyclopedia. It's bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing story that we can't possibly fit in our brains. So if you reduce it to a list of rules, you're missing the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are rules. But that's one of those where it's like, if you understand the big transformational cosmic story, the rules follow.
The meaning of the rules, at least in the Levitical law, was there are too many, you are a depraved nation, you can't do it. Ergo, thousands of years later, we have Jesus. It's one overarching story.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I just heard Tim Keller preaching this morning on my way into work about the woman at the well and how he saw to the depths of her depravity. She was at the bottom of the social strata of her society. Mm-hmm. She was a race that he shouldn't have talked to culturally. Mm-hmm. And she's a woman. Men don't talk to women in that culture. And he saw through all of that, and he loved her anyway, and he offered her living water, truth. It's beautiful. That's a message people would love to hear. Mm-hmm. He didn't walk up to her and go, whoa, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, I know this, that. He did talk to her about what she's doing wrong. Right. But in a way where he said, I see you, and I'm still going to love you anyway.
But she was so compelled by his radical love and this just act of reaching out to her. Again, different classes, different genders, that the implication is that she was moved to change her behavior.
Right. He's using the cosmic story, not the rules. It's a tough one to talk about, though, because then you can picture someone going, new in their faith, going, what do you mean, you don't care about the rules? It's not what I said. If you think your Christian faith is about rules, you're missing it, right? Is that fair to say? Mm-hmm. But we reduce it to that. And when you use the Bible in that context, I need to know the rules, the right, the wrong. Tell me what to do.
And you become like the Pharisees, where you're tithing your mint and cumin.
And forgetting the greater things.
Yeah.
Justice and mercy. Justice and mercy, he said there? Mercy and justice. Yeah. That's what he said there. If you don't believe me, or I might be wrong, go look it up for yourself, and it's something just as profound, okay? All right, well, for now, I think that's where we're going to hit pause on this one. There's other ones. You see, I was pumped up about this one. He really makes you think about how the church needs to rediscover who we really are called to be if we're going to be relevant in today's society. We're not going to yell them into the kingdom or tell them how wrong they are and finally make them submit to their wrongness and follow Jesus. It takes much more than that. It takes a different approach that's worked for all of human history. Apparently, we just forgot. Maybe we'll talk more about this tomorrow with my wife, Sarah, when she's in. Maybe. But coming up here in just a few minutes, what we ought to do, it's that time of the week, it's Thursday. We love to pretend to be experts. I've got a bunch of news stories from you, real news stories, and we are in show business, so that means we're in business. Ergo, we can evaluate business decisions. Yep. We'll do so live on the radio together in just a moment.
The words you are about to hear are taken from letters sent in by members of the Trinity Debt Management Program.
Dear Trinity, today I'm making my final credit card payment.
Before I came to you, I was in a constant state of anxiety and panic, but now there is hope for my family's financial future.
Working with Trinity made me understand that I'm not alone.
You really do help people.
Your kindness will never be forgotten.
Without Trinity support, I would not have achieved my lifelong goal of becoming debt-free.
We saved a lot on interest and penalties, of course, but the reward was the gift of human kindness.
Trinity has carried me through a very difficult time in my life. You're amazing.
I used to feel so anxious and hopeless. Now I feel grace and peace.
God bless Trinity as you continue to help others become debt-free.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838. That's 1-800-659-9838.
You know, it's true. Difficult times have a way of focusing us. We have to think about what matters most when it comes to our spending, our health care. This is why so many people are joining Medi-Share right now. Medi-Share is a trusted way to save up to 50% on your monthly health care costs. More than 400,000 people have already made the switch. It's pretty obvious why, too, especially now during this challenging season with health care costs and out-of-pocket expenses going up. Medi-Share can save you a lot of money. The typical family saves $500 a month. Medi-Share works, too. It's been around for 30 years. Members have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. There are different options to choose from to fit your budget. I'll give you the number here in a second, and if you call, you can get a price within 2 minutes. Maybe now is the perfect time to make the switch and start saving. Here you go. Call 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
They look at business decisions and impose their positions. Without a doubt, they know what they're talking about. It's time for Pretend Experts.
Leave that there. All right, first story comes to us from London. Hello, Governor. Hello, Governor. That's where you go like, hello. Come on, Lauren. Let's hear it. No? Okay. There's a new camera that's been invented.
Oh.
Now, it's not the new Apple Vision Pro, spend all your life savings to get these goggles that make you look ridiculous. This is a camera invented that allows people to see the world through animal vision.
Huh?
According to a report out this week, a team of British and American scientists got together across the pond and they decided to come up with a camera that records video in 4 colors, including ultraviolet, which is outside the range of human perception, but can be seen by birds. The camera then turns the data into perceptible units for different animals based on what's known about their photoreceptors in their eyes. Therefore, you can click the button and go, here's what birds see. This is what birds see. And now, dogs.
I don't care. I don't care what they see.
Yeah, like,
Is that rude?
Well, I mean, I don't think they're offended. They can't really be offended. I mean, dogs, if you like yell at them, they still want to be your friend. So,
Mm-hmm.
You don't care, Ron? You want to see what armadillos can see or elephants?
It's not
armadillos.
Really, if there was something that they saw, like if they saw dead people or whatever, you'd want to see.
Or if they saw angels, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but they just see what we see, or see some nothingness that we didn't see.
But maybe we could then see what groundhogs see. Therefore, we'd know what Puxatawney Phil sees.
He
and
sees a
Buckeye
shadow.
Chuck. Well, but does he? I mean, how do we know? We don't have the animal vision camera.
Because a person that's holding him says he saw a shadow.
Does he know? Not without these glasses.
Daria's on the phone, but I could picture her going, "That's stupid. I don't want it."
Right.
So, yeah, I'm glad scientists are teaming up across the pond. It's way to go. That's like world peace kind of thing. They're holding hands, inventing something no one asked for that will help no one, that no one will want to buy. I mean, why would you buy this?
I can't think of a good reason.
Thanks, guys. You did it. Way to go, science. All right.
Animal glasses.
Oh, she's off the phone. Hey, Daria, do you want glasses or a camera that helps you see like an animal does, like a bird or a dog?
What reason would I need for that?
See, I told
Exactly.
you. Yep, I told you.
No, you were a little bit more rude about how she would say it.
I thought you would say, "That's stupid and I don't want that." No?
That's my internal process, and then it goes through this thing called a filter. And
Yeah. Oh, I should get one of those.
Oh, me too.
Next one comes to us from New York, New York.
Okay.
A city so nice, they named it twice.
McDonald's has decided to create a spin-off restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
McDonald's?
Yeah. It's
I heard
called
about this.
Cosmix.
Oh, yeah.
COS, capital MC, apostrophe
Obviously.
S, Cosmix. And it's actually, as you get so cynical already, Lauren.
I haven't said anything. I just said I've
I
seen
can
it.
sense it. Watch the video. You can sense it.
She just has that.
I just have a face.
She's just scrutinizing everything. That's just her face. That's not a bad thing.
No, it's lovely, actually. Okay, so it's not a typical McDonald's. You're not going to go there and get, "Can I have a quarter pounder? Can I have chicken nuggets?" No.
McChicken.
No, you're not going to get that there.
Okay.
It's got higher traffic than usual. In fact, twice as much traffic last month as the original fast food chain would have. They just sell specialty drinks, and they target younger customers, which
What does that
apparently, well, like, think of they have the McCafe,
Oh, okay.
where you go in and you get your
Fancy drinks.
iced coffee or your mocha chocolate or whatever.
So is it coffee or is it like craft sodas?
Well,
Both?
see, they didn't tell me. They
Okay.
just said it's their specialty
Specialty.
drink. So I'm imagining they also do weird, like, not coffee stuff too, right?
'Cause
Like
You gotta have snacks.
Craft sodas, like non-alcoholic mocktails, those are really big right now.
they're probably doing that, is my guess. They're just drinks. They're not anything else but
They don't have any
drinks.
snacks.
Well, see, they didn't tell me that. I mean,
Oh.
they may have snacks,
Oh, they
but that's
called
not
you?
their focus.
I wonder if they have the Shamrock Shake there.
Hello, McDonald's.
Oh, Shamrock Shake, Ron.
Yes.
Well, see, to me, if
Those
I'm in
coming back
charge,
soon.
that
It's almost
counts.
time.
2 weeks, right?
It's a specialty.
No, a little more than that.
So, what do you think? You like this?
I'd give it a shot. I think they're
Yeah, why not?
capitalizing on a potential market.
Actually, my son's allergist back in Illinois, he went there. He's also TikTok famous. But he went there.
To Cosmix.
Yeah, to Cosmix. And he got like a bunch of drinks for like him and his office people.
How did he feel about it?
I think he was like, okay, this is fine. He wasn't like overjoyed about it, but he was like, this is fine. He said he stayed in like the drive-through line for like 20 minutes or something like that.
See, it's popular.
Yeah.
But this is one of those where if they asked my opinion, which they haven't, I would tell them the key to your success is take Starbucks menu and half the price. That's how you're going to do it.
That's right.
Because we all know it's
Pink
actually
drinks.
called $4. You know, could I have a small
$5.
coffee? We don't have small. Okay.
$6.
Can I have a? It's not grande. It's not venti.
It's a tall.
Can I
Figured
have
that one out.
Can I have a tall black coffee? Sure, that'll be $16. Thank you. So we like the idea.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yep.
You got a millennial like a McDonald's. I don't know what's going on here.
I love McChickens.
I actually do too. I always feel like I'm like
Cheating the system?
Well, like Yeah, taking it to the man. I feel like I'm...
Because it's $1.
No, I go up there and I'm like, you know what I want? They go, can I help you? Yeah, you can help me. I want a McChicken,
Chicken right now.
a small fry, and a large drink.
That's
and
exactly right.
And then they go, that's $4.60. And I go, ha!
On this economy, no, not anymore.
McChicken.
It's less than $5.
Still?
Yes, for that specific order. And I'm like, ha ha, you want it in quarters? Anyway, we like the idea. Okay, final one. We're going to go to Italy on this one.
Okay.
Ooh, yes.
Buongiorno. Buongiorno, Lauren. I'm from Italy. They have a problem in a particular province. Officials in Bolzano, they've got people who are dog owners who aren't following the signs, as they say. You're supposed to be kind, not rewind, but, when your dog makes a deposit in public,
you make the withdrawal?
Yes. Okay, that's what you're supposed to do. People are not doing this in Bolzano. It's a problem. In fact, Bolzano receives, I won't do that, a few hundred complaints a year from citizens about improper management of public land, and about half is about dogs.
I think I know where this is going.
So
I'm scared.
They need to solve the problem. Okay?
Okay.
You're a little impressed with my Italian.
No, I'm not.
You keep averting your eyes when I do it.
Because it's uncomfortable.
When you first started, it wasn't bad, but you just keep digging yourself in, and now it's just not good anymore.
Don't you want the spaghetti? Okay, so here's their solution. They're requiring every citizen to go to their local vet, every dog owner, local vet or animal shelter, and they must have their dog blood tested for DNA.
I know where this is
They're
going.
going to create a DNA database. And once that's completed, and by the way, if you refuse to get your dog DNA profiled, you're going to face fines from 292 to 1,000 euros.
Wow.
That's a big fine, by the way, because the way the conversion works, you're talking almost $300 minimum if you don't get your dog DNA profiled. And then they are going to essentially deputize street cleaners and health officials as they're going about their job. They go, oh, look at what we have here. We have a doggy deposit. We're going to pick it up, bring it back in, and have it DNA tested.
And find you.
Find the owner. And if you are identified this way, you'll be fined anywhere from 65 to 100 euros per deposit.
What a deposit.
Wow.
My sister lived in a luxury high-rise in Chicago, and they did this for the dogs that lived in the building. Because they had like a halfway through like a rooftop grassy area for dogs to go. And they made you give your dog's DNA so that if you were leaving your dog's business outside, they'd know, and you'd get a fine.
I bet it solved the problem.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
It would. What do we think? Balzano.
I think it'll work.
It's a way to keep it clean. A lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work and really expensive on part of the taxpayers.
But wow.
Yeah, if the fines cover the cost of that poor lab guy who's testing doggy do all day.
Wow. But you like it, Ron?
Yeah. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time.
Governor DeWine, state legislators, if you're listening to this, we have an idea.
Doggy DNA.
Consider it. All right, it's 7:02. We got to jump to Ron's news in today's More Ron moment. And after that, oh, look, it's Roy from Galvanized is back.
All right.
To give me a hard time and talk to you about double-mindedness and how men's recovery, which is the ministry he works in, can teach us and all of us about the idea of double-mindedness.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
The Senate Border Security and Foreign Aid package is not passing. It's 7:02. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The bill failed to get the necessary 60 votes to move forward on Wednesday after Republicans made it clear they were strongly opposed to it. They claim it doesn't go far enough to curb the flow of illegal immigration. Cleveland police are asking for the public's help in getting to the bottom of a shooting investigation. On January 27th, reports say that 3 suspects met up with 32-year-old Tyrone Hipps Jr. at a Sunoco gas station in the 3300 block of East 93rd Street. Hipps was shot and died at the scene. Anyone with information on the suspects involved is asked to call police. And an internet trade group is fighting against Ohio's new social media parental consent law in federal court. NetChoice is arguing that the rules requiring parents to submit digital consent forms on sites like TikTok and Instagram for users under 16 violates First Amendment protection. I'll be right back with sports and weather.
Talking politics is usually messy and may leave you wondering if thoughtful and productive dialogue of politics is even possible. Christians can do a better job of approaching political divides with an extra measure of grace. Dr. Amy Black addresses this in her book, Honoring God in Red or Blue, Approaching Politics with Humility, Grace, and Reason. Pick up your copy of Honoring God in Red or Blue at moodybooks.org.
In sports, the Cavaliers extended their winning streak to 7, following a 114-106 victory over the Wizards. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Partly sunny today, and our high temperature is going to be around 60 degrees. At last check, mostly cloudy, 41 in Cleveland, 37 in Akron and Canton, 40 degrees under clear skies in Lorraine, Elyria.
It's time for your moron moment.
To most Polish Americans, Punchki Day means making a ton of punchki and binge eating them in the company of family and friends. This day is celebrated the Thursday before Lent. Since Lent is a time of sacrifice, punchki were created to use up a household's supplies of things that the family wouldn't be able to eat during Lenten fasting. Punchki Day is the perfect excuse, as if we needed one, to eat the famous and delicious Polish pastry. Similar to a donut, punchki are a sugary pastry that combines glossy doughs with a delicious fruit filling. And that's your Moron Moment.
Moron.
And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:05. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron East.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
7:09 on WCRF, Mornings with Brian. Don't forget the Walkworthy Men's Conference coming in just a few weeks. Tickets are flying off the shelves. We'd love to. There's actually not shelves or physical tickets. It's all digital, but it's all, figuratively speaking, they're going quickly.
Yeah.
So get your ticket today. Saturday, March 2nd, Canton Baptist Temple, a bunch of different people. And by the way, if you have a testimony about this, if you've, I don't know, been to Walkworthy and it's made a difference in your life, we'd love to hear from you. You can always call 440-546-2255. But meanwhile, use that number to text the word WALK to 440-546-2255. Now, I can't guarantee it, but there may be a sighting, a rare sighting, kind of like seeing a jackalope or a liger. You could see Roy, facilitator of Galvanized, a men's recovery ministry at Grace Church in Middleburg Heights. You might see him at Walkworthy. Right, Roy? Maybe?
It's like seeing a chupacabra, maybe, right?
Yes, the chupacabra, exactly.
Chupacabra.
You've been to Walkworthy, haven't you?
I have.
Yeah, and it's what do you think of
Been a
Walkworthy?
few years. I think it's great. I think so many times we're guys and we're so busy from day to day that we don't stop. And I know I'm guilty of not stopping and taking the time to be fed. And I think this is a moment where you can gather. Most guys, Brian, we've talked about this. Most guys don't have the opportunity or the people around them where they can be transparent. You know what I mean? With a bunch of guys and say, hey, you know what I did this weekend that was so stupid? I think when you go to things like this Walkworthy, you sit next to somebody, you eat with them at lunch, you hang out with them a little bit, and next thing you know, you have a friend that's kind of in the same direction as you. I think it's great because guys need fellowship.
That's
so
right.
many of us isolate work. We fill in our days, make ourselves as busy as we can from start to finish, and there's no sharpening going on,
Yeah,
So get your tickets before they fly off the shelf.
Exactly. So text WALK to 440-546-2255. Would love to see you there. And if you're worried about being awkward, don't worry, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll fill up the room with awkwardness. No one will notice yours. Okay, so today, in light of your work in recovery ministry, you want to talk about double-mindedness. What's that?
Yeah. Let me tell you, I woke up really early this morning, and I was nervous. And I was like, did I miss the show? It was so weird. I was up with my buddy Jeff. This is maple syrup season, so we cooked maple syrup in my backyard with my kids, and we were up really late. And I'm trying to message Lauren last night, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's probably asleep. And so, good morning, Jeff. Thanks for spending all your night with me, hanging out, building a Moody topic. So as I'm sitting around drinking maple syrup at 11 o'clock at night, I realize I'm on Moody at 7 in the morning. So, Brian, you didn't. That's why I'm not on your live stream, right?
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
not quite able to make it to the studio this morning. I'm lucky I woke up, but yes.
We may. Do we have a picture of Roy? No.
We don't.
Yeah, he's very mysterious. Can I? You know what we're gonna do? I'm gonna pick a picture of you.
Like yours.
I'm an expert internet stalker. I couldn't find one.
Oh wow.
There's a picture with me and Kathleen and Brian looks like he's 12 years old. Kathleen looks like she's like in grade school. It was when you guys first started at Grace Church when you were doing some kind of promotion. I know we got that one. I'll send some Moody pictures in for you so you guys got one. I'll send it to Lauren or something like that.
That sounds good. And with you in the picture, it looked like we were visiting a nursing home.
I know, the three of us, right? My grandkids. Oh,
that's not true. Actually, you're handsome and young and tall.
Whatever.
Okay, so double-mindedness.
Double-mindedness. I have to admit, though, I did tell Daria that I'm trying to figure out my best way to give you a hard time this morning. So,
it never fails. You find the way.
Yes,
so.
That's what I do. All right, double-mindedness. So let's test your knowledge. All right, Lauren and Brian or whoever. What do you guys think this even means, double-mindedness?
Lauren?
Without looking it up, she probably already looked it up because she's so prepared. She Googled it this morning. She read my notes.
I did read your notes.
What do you think it means?
I don't know. Is it like you say one thing but mean another, or you're not really saying what you want to say?
Brian, do we agree with her? Yes or no? Quick.
I do, yes.
All right, cool. Merriam-Webster, right? I looked it up because I'm like, I know what it means. I've heard it said before. It's in the Bible. It's all over the place. But I'm like, what does it actually mean? So Merriam-Webster defines it as undecided, vacillating, and then the next definition says marked by hypocrisy or insincerity, right?
Yeah.
So you get this picture, this vacillation, this kind of toss around. Now, Bible examples now. Where do you see in the Bible where it talks about? There's definitely one verse where the word double-minded is used in the NIV version, but what do you guys think? You might need to phone Ron in for this one, for your Bible expert. But
okay,
Ron, do you got examples in the Bible of double-mindedness?
I can't remember the reference, but the double-minded man is unstable in all his ways.
Yeah, James 1, 6-8.
That's right.
And he says that person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all they do. And they're talking about doubt and blown around like the sea, like the waves blow around. But there was another verse that I was talking about. We talked about this last week or the previous week at Galvanized. And the verse that I jumped on was Mark 9, and it's 22 through 24. And if anybody looks it up, they can grab that on their own. But it's this guy, he's a dad, and he's got his kid, and he's got this kid that has seizures and problems and everything like that. And he's like searching out the disciples. Remember Jesus, the transfiguration, Jesus comes down from the mountain with a couple of his dudes, and everybody's kind of fighting. The rest of his guys are sitting there fighting because this guy is like, hey, your disciples couldn't cast out this demon in my kid. What's going on, right? And so in verse 22, the guy says to Jesus, if you can. And then 23, Jesus like, if? He's like seriously? You know? And then in 24, he says, I do believe, help my unbelief. And this is the verse of the double-mindedness that I want to reference for coming up here in a minute when we continue this conversation, on the next part of this in recovery. But think about it. This guy, he's got enough faith to show up with his kid because he wants his kid to be healed. But then he asks Jesus, if you can. And Jesus replies and this is in that verse where he's kind of like frustrated with his disciples, like, how long I got to roll with you knuckleheads? I'm going to be gone. You guys got to be doing this on your own. Right. So what we've done is we've just kind of defined in our terms, Merriam-Webster, what we think is, Lauren Webster, what we think double-mindedness is. Then we bring in a couple of Bible examples. Now I want to ask you guys, can you think of an example in what we'll say real life? What's real life double-mindedness? Like maybe something you do, something something, Brian, we know that, you probably are, but maybe you could tell us something that Sarah does that's double-minded or something like that, because,
She is not only
listening,
but I don't know that she even could comprehend doing that. Like she's never done things. She's like George
Sarah
Washington.
Doesn't sin.
Yeah.
Like George Washington.
She doesn't tell lies. Yeah. She chopped down the cherry tree in the yard, and she's like, Brian,
cherry tree.
I did it right away. She told me. Yeah.
Come on, what's an example? I know. Can you think of something about double-mindedness?
I can.
Maybe you have done or do.
Let's do this. Let's give me more time to think about it.
He said, "Oh." Commercial break right now.
See,
I didn't write that in for another couple seconds. All right.
You walked me right up to it.
Followed by Brian's commercial break.
So here we go. I'll think of something. I hope, and we'll get to more with Roy from Galvanized, a men's recovery ministry at Grace Church in Middleburg Heights here in just a minute.
The Bible is core to the Christian life, and it's the foundation for every Moody Theological Seminary master's program. If you're a ministry leader, Bible study, or small group leader, you'll benefit from the Moody Theological Seminary's Bible Studies program. Learn to effectively study Scripture and teach it with confidence. Gain a better understanding of how God's Word relates to our lives, church, and communities. Learn more and register online today at moody.edu/MABS. moody.edu/MABS.
Growing in your faith takes intentionality. Here's Pastor Mark Joe with your daily dose of wisdom.
I don't see Joseph ignoring the people around him. I don't see him wallowing in his self-pity. I see Joseph brushing himself off and saying, you got a plan and you got a purpose for my life. You're still on the throne, God. I haven't given up. I may be knocked down a little bit, but you have a purpose and a plan, and I may not see the future, and it may look dark, and I don't know how I'm going to get out of prison, but you know what? I have a dream. And your dream is for me to prosper. It's for good things in my life. And I may not see how it's going to be fulfilled, but I know that God is in control. And I know that He holds the future. And I refuse to let my destiny be hijacked by discouragement, self-pity, or a victim mentality.
Take your next step with God today at boldstepsminute.org.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
If you're just tuning in, it's 7:19 here. We got Roy, a facilitator of Galvanized. It's a men's recovery ministry at Grace Church in Middleburg Heights. I've been there. It's a fantastic place. Group of men trying to grow in holiness and sobriety from whatever they're addicted to. We're going to tell you how to get connected because in Jesus' name, we want you to get the help you need to break free from addiction. For now, we're chatting about a concept that Roy taught at Galvanized about double-mindedness. He asked me to give a personal example of double-mindedness. We get to the break, I go, Lauren, help me! I'm freezing up!
He literally hung his head and looked down and he's like, okay, so hypocrisy.
Yeah, I'm frozen. When you've got a lot of it and just you can't think of it. And so Lauren was like, don't worry, Brian. And then she starts giving me a list. I was like, okay, fine, stop.
Type it up.
Okay.
Email it to you.
She could. But the best one is one I talk about fairly regularly. I talk about living a transformed life and loving your enemies and praying for those who persecute you. And then I get in my car and I forget all of it. And I start driving and everyone's out to get me and I can't forgive any of them.
Everyone's evil and mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was trying to get you to think about. And the reason why is this, joking aside, we all do this. It doesn't matter if you're real quick. So Galvanized started. It started with substance abuse and addiction to chemical dependency, drugs, alcohol type of stuff like that. And then it quickly expanded as we started to expand our teachings. And it was guys with pornography addictions. And then somebody shows up with a gambling addiction. And then somebody shows up with depression. And then somebody shows up with what they call adult child, which means you grew up in a home of an alcoholic, or kind of like the Al-Anon type of concept. And it continues to expand. And we have people with food addictions and all these different facets. And I'm sitting here man, what is the commonality? And it's it's this lack of control, this trying to control. And so the reason I point that out is because, Brian, you're not active in a recovery group for addiction. However, you're just able to come up with something of double-mindedness, right?
Exactly.
And I think about this. I think about talking about somebody. If you're at work or you're at a group and a bunch of people come up and you're talking and you're being nice to them, and then they walk away and you're like, oh my gosh. They're like, Brian. I'm like, Brian, who was it? He's like, oh, that's Lauren. She's the new, oh my gosh, I got to deal with her every morning, right? Yep. That's double-mindedness.
Stop convicting me like that.
Nice. I know. You're being nice to her face, and when you walk away, you're saying something behind her back. Or I think about our pastor Jonathan at Grace Church. When you see him out in public, you're never going to catch him being different than he is normal. Right or wrong is irrelevant, but he's the same. He's consistent. And do I come to church and put on this nice face? Do I go to work and I behave myself in front of my boss, but I come home and I yell at my kids, right? Or do I swear at home but not at work? Or swear at work and not at church? Do I laugh at the bad jokes here? That's all levels of double-mindedness. And if we look back at that scripture earlier in James 1 that Ron was pointed out, it says such a person is that person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. And then it talks about the guy, let's go back to the guy that was asking Jesus to heal his son. Jesus is like, what do you mean if? You're coming to me so passive, God, I know you can, but if you can help me with, it's double-mindedness. So the reason I'm painting this definition is because the first three steps in recovery is kind of accepting this position that you are powerless over your separation from God. When you get separated from God, the effects of that, you're powerless over what happens. And then in step two, you're kind of admitting that there's a God and that he's big enough and he can, right? And so that kind of goes back to the guy who's trying to get his son healed. You're locking in your answer that says he can, not if, he can, right? Mm-hmm. And then step three is you're kind of you're saying that second part of Mark, or that third verse, Mark 24, I do believe help my unbelief, right? It's that I'm going to let you, I want you to, please do, and so the reason I brought this up is because double-mindedness is dangerous, particularly in addiction, because it comes back to this, I can't do this on my own. I am so beat. I'm ruining I need a guide. I'm climbing the summit of this massive mountain, and I'm not a climber, but Brian's done it 20 times. I've hired him. He's the guide. I need to follow him, or I'm not going to make it down alive, right? And that's life. Like, I'm going through life, and I need God to lead me. And then I go, well, maybe I'll go this way. And it's like, like you can almost see, like, the climbing guide say, no, Brian, if you go that way, there's loose rock over there. You will definitely slip and fall. And if you fall, the results are going to be tragic, right? And the guide sees something different than we see. He or she sees the bigger picture, But as soon as we take that double-mindedness, we start to take back the control. In the beginning of the mountain climb, you had no confidence whatsoever. You had never done this. But now that you're getting, like, a little bit of, confidence behind you, a little bit of arrogance behind it. Oh, I'm halfway. I can see the top. Maybe I'll go this way. It looks like a shorter. Don't go that way, right? That was my dentist from, that was my impression of what is
Jurassic Park?
Yeah, thank you. You got it, see? That was so ridiculous. I'm sorry. I get distracted really easy.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. But Brian, so that's the concept of the danger. And I think the reason I tied it together with kind of bringing some personal examples, because I don't always want to come to Moody and talk about just these addiction people, but all of us can apply this stuff. You know what I mean? All of us at some way, shape, and form go to church. I love it when we have a really big church and the 10:30 service is really busy. And I've seen people give the finger because they get cut off pulling out of the church parking lot. And it always makes me laugh when they're like, they're trying to get, and I look at my wife, I'm like, look, I guess the message isn't so good today, right? When they walk, the Bible talks about, like, when you look in the mirror and you see your face and you walk away and forget what you look like. That's another example of that double-minded. How quickly do we forget that God is in control? We got to let him stay in control, and we cannot take the wheel. There was a skit guys. You ever heard of skit guys? They do like it was played somewhere at some men's thing where the skit guys did this skit about taking control and letting Jesus take control and then kind of going back and forth and, like, taking it back. And it was on YouTube, and it painted a real good picture of how we do this in our lives. Mm-hmm. So, that's why I wanted to just share that. That's what we're talking. Obviously, at Galvanized, we went into way more detail and we applied it individually and personally. But in 20 minutes, what can you get?
Well, it's perfect timing because I have two things I want you to do. Okay, first one is we've got to tell people how to get help. If you're listening right now and you or someone very close to you is struggling with some form of addiction, doesn't have to be substance abuse. It could be pornography. It could be anger, or
it could be gambling.
Anger. Yes.
Yeah.
If it's any of those things, I got to tell you, you've got to go to Galvanize. It's at Grace Church in Middleburg Heights. I've been there, and it's probably one of the most welcoming, comfortable places I've been in my whole life. You need to go get help in Jesus' name. And Roy, you got to tell them how to go get help.
7:30 on Friday nights. We meet practically every Friday. It's very, very rare over the past 16, 17 years that we've ever not met. We have a guest speaker this Friday, so you'll hear an awesome testimony. We have, I think we have dinner. We're having meatball subs at 7 o'clock. So if you come out this way, you get fed for free. And Brian, it's funny because people get nervous about, like, I can't walk, and it's going to be like an old Hill Street Blues. Oh my gosh, what an old reference. Hill Street Blues show where the guy's got to walk in, and everybody's going to sit in a smoky room, and it's not like that.
No.
It's like, it's done nice, and you show up, and you're going to feel welcome, and you don't have to feel awkward. You can just come in and grab a cup of coffee, some water, some tea, whatever. Sit down. We're not going to make you, like, stand up and, like, everybody's going to be like, it's not like that. It's just come in and slide in. So we're at 7:30 tomorrow at Grace Church in Middleburg Heights upstairs, and we'll have dinner around 7, and you can show up anytime and come and hear a testimony tomorrow, and we'll get you started.
Now, somebody just asked if you have any other locations, like perhaps Akron or the Canton or Youngstown areas. Do you have any other meeting places?
Interesting. We do have Galvanized Akron at Community Church of Portage Lakes on Thursday. I think it's at 7:30. But recently, Mike is now starting up doing Galvanized in Berea on Tuesdays from, I want to say 7 to 8. It's an hour long, and it's at Renew Community Church on Bagley Road in the plaza across the street from Mark's. So that's a new thing. It's just starting. And obviously you can always check yourself into Lorraine Correctional, and you could go with Pastor Scott, and you can go to Galvanized there. But I don't suggest that one if you don't have to,
Yeah, no, and we got a bunch of the guys in Lorraine Correctional that listen every morning. Yeah, and if you're one of those guys and you need help with addiction, Galvanized is inside your institution. It's a wonderful opportunity to get help.
Pastor Scott's leading it there. And a lot of guys, I shouldn't say a lot, but we have guys that come from Lorraine Correctional that come in and join up with us when they get out. And it's awesome. We welcome them, and we try to walk alongside of them. So there you go.
So if somebody couldn't write all that down, doesn't remember it, is there a website, phone number, something?
Yeah. You can email at info@galvanized.life. You can call the radio station, info@galvanized.life. You could go to Grace Church's website. You could probably bug, Lauren or Daria.
I wrote it down.
There you go. And you can always, email. They can always hook you up directly with me. So.
All right. I have one more thing for you to do before we say goodbye.
All right.
And Lauren's told me about 6 times, and so I'm not going to forget
You've missed it like 4 days already.
So we're going to give away a pair of tickets to the Walkworthy Men's Conference.
Alert.
Do I have to reach into the hat and pull out a number?
That's right.
Yes, you do. So what number caller should we choose?
1
Roy
through
from
10.
Galvanized?
1 through 10. Okay, I was going to go with like a really weird number.
No, don't.
All right,
we only have 10 lines.
So we talked about steps 1, 2, and 3. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. So let's go with caller 6.
Okay.
I'm lost, but we'll go with it. Yeah. 6. Caller number 6.
1 plus 2 is 3, and then 3 plus 3 is 6.
I'm out. You lost me.
It's real easy.
I was told there'd be no math. Caller number 6 right now wins a pair of tickets to see. To go to the Walkworthy Men's Conference, Saturday, March 2nd. Well, you can see it too. You can also be there.
Ryan Show, live and on the air. Woo-hoo.
Saturday, March 2nd, Canton Baptist Temple. Call right now. Caller number 6, 440-546-2255, 440-546-2255. Thanks again, Roy. Appreciate you, brother.
You guys have an awesome day. See you soon.
You too. Coming up in a minute, we're going to go there. We'll talk with Dr. Mark Caleb Smith from Cedarville University about a very big Supreme Court case being heard today about the 14th Amendment, and we may even get to immigration. Buckle up.
Dr. Tony Evans says modern-day idols come in all shapes and sizes. He'll talk about one place where more and more idol worship seems to be going on these days, as we spend 2 minutes with Tony.
There's social idolatry, relational idolatry. It is the bringing of any noun, person, place, thing, or thought in competition with the living God. And so there are idols all over the place. We advertise personalities like they God. I mean, Facebook and Instagram, and they following fools. I mean, they are literally spending hours following fools. Crazy folk, indecent folk, because they look good and they know how to act or know how to sing, and hours following fools and not 5 minutes following the Lord. That is entertainment idolatry. God does not want to be competed with. He has an exclusivity clause. He has a no-compete contract. And whenever you bring competition, idolatry, and you put it next to God, you have to understand you have just made God your enemy.
If you're tired of settling for some kind of God substitute, check out Tony's CD series, U-Turn, available online at tonyevans.org. Then join us next time for 2 Minutes with Tony.
We're living in a time where isolation, disunity, and loneliness is on the rise. We're all seeking meaningful connections and relationships, even a deeper relationship with God. The Bible describes our relationship with God as a marriage. But what does that mean? In his new book, Dearly Beloved, Pastor Vermon Pierre helps you establish a truer fellowship and deeper unity within the church and more holistic devotion to Jesus. Get your copy of Dearly Beloved today at moodybooks.org.
They say family
Out of talking non-stop.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
7:35 WCRF, Mornings with Brian, and it's time. He's hoping that we're going to talk about his favorite color, maybe his favorite food, but
favorite bow tie.
Favorite bow tie. He loves bow ties, but no. We're not going to give him easy questions. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Mark Caleb Smith, Dean of the School of Arts and Humanities at Cedarville University, where he's also Professor of Political Science and Director of the Center for Political Studies there as well. Welcome back.
It is always a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, I love to geek out with you because I was a social studies teacher, so I always feel like, we're BFFs when this is done, and it's just my favorite.
It's a blast. No kidding.
I'm so glad.
He's going to record that and play it while he's falling asleep.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm glad we're starting with lightness because it's going to stop right now. So I want to remind folks we're nonpartisan. We, as in Dr. Smith, us, we don't want to talk partisan politics. We're not gonna. Don't try to listen for it. We're not interested in it. We want to actually just have a really logical, constitutional, civics discussion about some things going on in the world. First one, today the Supreme Court will be hearing oral arguments for perhaps one of its most consequential cases in how many years would you say? Would you say in 25 years, 50 years?
Politically, probably at least since Bush v. Gore. So, yeah, since 2000.
So, for those unfamiliar, what are the circumstances of the case that they're going to be hearing today at the Supreme Court?
That is such a loaded question. This is a massive case. So I'll take 30 seconds and explain everything based on your question.
Yeah. Right? Just a real overview.
No, I'm just giving you a hard time.
I know.
All right. So the 14th Amendment, I know everyone loves to start their mornings thinking about the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was written after the Civil War, and it has a Section 3 within that amendment appears to bar people from holding office if they've engaged in insurrectionary activities against the United States of America, and if they previously swore an oath to America and to the Constitution. And now we can understand the context. This is really directed at people who had fought against the Union, Confederate soldiers, Confederate politicians perhaps, and others who rebelled actively against the country and who had previously been members of the military or politicians and chose to rebel. It was really barring them from office. And so the question the court's going to deal with today is, does this language, in their oral argument today, does this language apply to Donald Trump? And if it does, can states use the 14th Amendment in Section 3 to prevent Donald Trump from appearing on their electoral ballots?
Okay, so a lot of people's heads started to explode because you said lots of things there. But again, we're not interested in the partisan parts of this.
Right, that's right.
Now, as we go to the 14th Amendment, I got to be honest, I don't think many people spend much time there. First observation, okay, the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, pretty succinct. I enjoy it, fits on a page. The 14th Amendment has 5 sections. This takes up a whole page.
It's massive. It is massive. And it's also inarguably the most important amendment to the Constitution outside of the Bill of Rights.
Why would you say that?
Because it contains language that restricts state governments in very particular ways. And the Supreme Court over time used that language to basically apply the Bill of Rights to every government in the United States of America. Because again, we don't need to get into Civics 101, but if you look at the First Amendment, it starts with this phrase, Congress shall make no law. Well, that was interpreted to mean by the court for generations that the Bill of Rights only applied to the national government and not to state and local governments. So therefore, once the 14th Amendment was passed, the court began to use that language in Section 2 to apply the Bill of Rights to state and local governments. And so now free speech rights exist from top to bottom, not just at the federal level.
And it seems to me, as I look at it, a lot of these provisions are compelling states to view African Americans as equal and Native Americans, quite frankly.
Yes, that's correct. So a lot of these things are motivated out of a desire to get rid of all the vestiges of slavery. So slavery is over because of the 13th Amendment. They've already banned slavery with the 13th Amendment. But the 14th Amendment is there, I think, to prevent states from treating people differently because of the existence of slavery at one point. So it requires states to provide people due process of the law with the equal protection of the law and other things. And you're right. You can see a lot of this directed certainly at that issue. But the Supreme Court doesn't necessarily limit its understanding to the specific desire that was expressed when this language was written, because it's not written in a small way. It's big language. It's not written for this very particular moment. These are principles that are put in place, and the court has to decide whether or not those principles are relevant in cases we deal with today.
So no judge, or really no informed citizen, will look at the 14th Amendment and go, oh, that doesn't count anymore because they were talking about the Civil War.
That's right. No judge, and I think no informed citizen would reach that conclusion. There are an awful lot of things that we get because of the 14th Amendment, and it's not just related to the Civil War, for sure.
Yeah, it feels kind of like a catch-all amendment where they had a whole bunch of problems after the Civil War, and they're like, okay, we're going to make 5 sections and solve 5 separate problems. Is that a fair assessment?
No, that's a fair assessment, and there are people who refer to it as, in some ways, our second constitutional founding. It redefined so much of how the Constitution is understood that it really is a momentous amendment.
And now I think it's worth looking at, again, it's Section 3 with some specificity here. But before we get to that, has the Supreme Court ever made a ruling on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment?
No. They've never made a decision about its applicability in anything remotely resembling something like this.
So there's no court precedent for them to follow. They know, no matter what they do, they're setting precedent.
Because of the unique nature of the presidency and the way that presidential campaigns happen, this is a unique precedent that they're getting ready to set. And they will take that incredibly seriously because they don't have much else to rely on. And so, this is going to be it's going to be very delicate. Let's just put it like that.
And now, for those who don't follow the Supreme Court, how rare is this that the court would, for the very first time, make an official ruling on one of the amendments to the Constitution?
It's pretty unusual. Yeah, it's very unusual. Generally, I teach constitutional law, and basically I teach precedents. I teach, here's the First Amendment. Let's look at the scads of precedents that come out of litigation surrounding all these issues. And so this is highly unusual, especially as far away as we are right now from the 14th Amendment. So, this is not normal.
And as I understand it, right, when you're looking at Supreme Court precedent and their decisions, a lot of times they're defining terms. They're saying, okay, Congress wrote this law. Here's what the words they chose actually mean. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, I think we can say now that overwhelmingly all the members of the Supreme Court feel that way. That's how they go into their job. Let's look at the language of the document. Let's ascertain the precise meanings that we're working with here, and then start to think through how those meanings should be reflected given the facts that we have in front of us. So they're going to start with the text first. That's right.
And now, a lot of times what you're going to get from news media these days is commentary, where people are going to tell you what they think, right? And they're going to tell you what to think. But let's just do this. I'm going to briefly, it's not long, read Section 3, and then I want us to be able to talk about it together. And let's do it this way. I'm going to take a quick break so we're not running too late here. We'll come back, and I'm going to take us through Section 3 of the 14th Amendment and have you help us understand what words will the Supreme Court be deciding, and do we have any idea what they're going to do, and then what the consequences will be of their possible decisions they could make.
The words you are about to hear are taken from letters sent in by members of the Trinity Debt Management Program.
Dear Trinity, today I'm making my final credit card payment.
Before I came to you, I was in a constant state of anxiety and panic, but now there is hope for my family's financial future.
Working with Trinity made me understand that I'm not alone.
You really do help people.
Your kindness will never be forgotten.
Without Trinity's support, I would not have achieved my lifelong goal of becoming debt-free.
We saved a lot on interest and penalties, of course, but the reward was the gift of human kindness.
Trinity has carried me through a very difficult time in my life. You're amazing.
I used to feel so anxious and hopeless. Now I feel grace and peace.
God bless Trinity as you continue to help others become debt-free.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838. That's 1-800-659-9838.
You know, it's true. Difficult times have a way of focusing us. We have to think about what matters most when it comes to our spending, our health care. This is why so many people are joining Medi-Share right now. Medi-Share is a trusted way to save up to 50% on your monthly health care costs. More than 400,000 people have already made the switch. It's pretty obvious why, too, especially now during this challenging season with healthcare costs and out-of-pocket expenses going up. Medi-Share can save you a lot of money. The typical family saves $500 a month. Medi-Share works, too. It's been around for 30 years. Members have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. There are different options to choose from to fit your budget. I'll give you the number here in a second, and if you call, you can get a price within 2 minutes. Maybe now is the perfect time to make the switch and start saving. Here you go. Call 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Pour another cup of coffee and settle in for engaging, Christ-centered conversations. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
7:46. If you're just tuning in, we're having a great discussion with our friend Dr. Mark Caleb Smith, Dean of the School of Arts and Humanities and Professor of Political Science at Cedarville University. We're talking about today's oral arguments at the Supreme Court of the United States of America will, for the very first time in our history, be hearing a case and making a decision about the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, specifically Section 3. And it could influence the outcome of the election pretty dramatically. Now, we're not going to talk partisan politics here. We're just trying to understand what's happening. That's our goal. So, just for the sake of our argument here and understanding, Dr. Smith, I'm going to quickly read Section 3 for us so we can talk about terms. Because as we mentioned before the break, today the Supreme Court will decide what this means. Like when people wrote, when Congress wrote this in the 1860s, like what's the meaning of this for us, not just then, but today. So here we go. 14th Amendment, Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. So if I'm understanding what they're writing here, they're saying anybody who holds any office, and this is what the court has to decide, right? Anyone who holds any office, state or federal, that participates in an insurrection or a rebellion, and they've held an office under oath, they can't serve again.
So
deep breath.
The problem up front, and I understand this might sound absurd, is whether or not this language applies to the President of the United States.
Exactly.
Because it lists senator, it lists representative, it says elector of president and vice president. An elector is like the Electoral College. It is not president and vice president. And then it says, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States. So the question is going to be whether this idea of the office there, or officer, as it's listed later in Section 3, whether those two words refer to the President of the United States. And believe it or not, that is not exactly a cut and dry issue. There's this question that you have to have is why would they not list the president and vice president since they've already listed senators and representatives? Why would they ignore them? You know, it seems kind of obvious that if you're going to list these other members of the federal government, why not list the president or vice president directly? There will be arguments that the decision not to list them reflects a decision to exclude them from this.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, it's a tough one because the first half of this section appears to be Congress at the time doing their very best to say everybody.
It appears though. It appears that way, but it's not everybody. Now, I think you could argue the language as an officer of the United States probably does include the president or the vice president, but that's a pretty big assumption to make. Now, there's some evidence around the framing of this. We have transcripts from Congress where they're arguing about this, where one of the authors of the amendment was asked this question on the floor, whether or not the vice president and president were included.
Really?
And he basically says, duh, of course they are. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's an authoritative response. And it also doesn't mean that everyone else who voted on the amendment would have agreed with him. And so I think it probably includes the president and the vice president, and the language is so broad that it probably should, but it is not a simple decision.
So do we know for certain whether or not the court will be deciding whether or not the president counts in this list?
Yes, I think that they're going to have to reach that conclusion if they decide that it's relevant and applicable based on other factors. I think that's one of the questions they're going to have to address, yes.
But it's not the only one because I think, and this is where lawyers drive everybody else nuts, right? But
right.
The words insurrection and rebellion,
yes,
they have to define that, right?
They do. To my knowledge, and I'm not going to claim extensive expertise in the federal code, but to my knowledge, the federal code of the United States of America does not concretely define insurrection or rebellion definitively. You know, it doesn't give us a textbook definition of this is what we mean by this. And so, generally speaking, you know, insurrection involves a violent act against the government and against its authority. Rebellion usually refers to more of an armed, organized resistance to either overthrow that government or authority. And so insurrection tends to be a little less formal maybe and a little less organized, but it can still lead to the same kind of outcomes as a rebellion. Does that include what we saw on January 6th is really the question the court's going to get at. Does it include efforts to push back against election results surrounding January 6th and then the calling of the rally and then let's all walk down together and then what happened on January 6th, which, again, if in a purely nonpartisan way, was a deliberate effort to short-circuit at least a constitutional proceeding that was taking place in Congress at that moment.
So they're not just deciding what insurrection and rebellion mean, they're deciding on a specific situation from January 6th, whether that counts as that, and whether or not
Correct.
Former President Trump was part of it.
That's exactly right.
Now,
that's exactly what it is.
Now, if I understand things correctly, the federal court in Colorado already made a decision. What they said was yes, yes, and yes. And now the Supreme Court's going to say if they're right or not. Is that correct?
They're going to say if they have the authority. One of the questions they have to deal with as well is whether the state has the authority to make this decision on their own, or whether there are other entities that would have to weigh in on this, like the Supreme Court or maybe even Congress. Now, I know that sounds insane, but, Brian, we were just reading the 14th Amendment. The very end of the 14th Amendment, Section 5, says Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. There are going to be people who argue Congress has to put teeth into this and define these terms through legislation, and since Congress has chosen not to do that, or at least not recently do that, we really don't have legislation that can be enforced by a state against a president of the United States.
So does the Supreme Court act in a way sometimes where they say, this law isn't good enough, you've got to make it better?
They could say that we don't. The technical language here is whether or not Section 3 is self-executing.
Okay.
Like, does it just execute itself where you can go to a court and say, I'm challenging you based on Section 3? Or is it the kind of language that requires a law to be passed in order to create a circumstance where you could have an adjudication take place? And so the court could decide that this is not self-executing, therefore it's a moot issue, Congress needs to pass legislation, and the court just punts on the whole thing. They could easily do that to say this isn't our problem anymore.
But isn't it safe to say that's unlikely because of the gravity of the situation with an election coming in less than a year?
I don't know if it's unlikely necessarily, because in doing so, they would also basically be telling Colorado and Connecticut and other states that you can't do this because Congress hasn't authorized it, and therefore your decisions aren't relevant. You can't prevent him from being on the ballot. And so this just sort of goes away at that point. And so that's one way they could kind of avoid settling a lot of issues and let the election kind of unfold as they see fit. Now, I think that'd be a little bit of a punt, a little bit of just an avoidance mechanism. But the court routinely tries to avoid difficult situations because they just don't want to insert themselves politically.
Because that's not their job.
Can you imagine? We can talk about this, but can you imagine what the outcome will be if the court says, oh, yeah, you can go ahead and do this, and President Trump or some future president gets struck from 25 state ballots? I mean, imagine the outcome of that. I mean, so the court doesn't want to jump into this without being very, very sure of what it's doing.
So what are the other possible outcomes that could come out of this?
They could say that there's basically one big standard at work here, and President Trump just simply doesn't qualify to be on any ballots because we've decided the language applies to him, the circumstances apply to him, and therefore he's barred from holding office. The court decides it, and it's over at that point. Now, it does tell you in Section 3 that Congress can override this with a two-thirds vote potentially. And so Congress could circumvent it if they choose to, but good luck with that, right?
Yeah.
So they could do that. They could also say we're going to let states work this out. Let states make the decisions that they want to make based on their own circumstances. We're not going to settle it. The Constitution's there. It allows states to have the flexibility they wish. But again, I think if they do that, you'll see a lot of states step forward and try to limit President Trump's access to the ballot. Or they could decide the language just doesn't apply to him. He wasn't engaged in insurrection. Maybe they would even say the people who went into the Capitol were engaged in insurrection, but he was not. And therefore, they're not willing to say that the language applies to him and the election sort of moves forward as we might expect. So lots of options are on the table for the court, and I'm sure other ones that I haven't thought of.
And since we don't have any court precedent on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, we really, I mean, pundits can say what they want, but does anyone really have any idea what they're going to do?
No, not really. And even when we have oral arguments today, people will speculate that they now know what the court's going to do, and they don't either. And so the oral arguments will be interesting. It'll be revealing to some extent, but reading too much into oral arguments is a pretty consistent mistake. So, we'll see what they do. And they can hand down a decision relatively quickly, or they could also take their time on this, and this might not be handed down for a few months.
And now perhaps most importantly, and this is what we can offer that other media sources can't, we're followers of Jesus. You are a follower of Jesus. It's one of the things I admire most about you is your deep faith in Jesus that supersedes even your passion for politics. Because you're a pretty passionate guy about politics. You have all the degrees in it, and you teach it.
Yep.
So how are you approaching this in terms of how you're going to think and feel about the case itself and whatever the outcome is in light of your faith?
Yeah, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And let me be very careful how I say that. It doesn't matter because it's all part of God's unfolding plan. And in the end, his glory will be revealed one way or the other. And so even if it goes the direction I would prefer, or if it doesn't go in the direction that I would prefer, I really try hard to not let these kinds of issues get into the center of my life and become idolatrous, or become so wrapped up in them and absorbed in them that I lose perspective and lose priorities. And so this would be momentous, but it doesn't define the future. It doesn't remove God from his throne. And in the end, honestly, doesn't define the United States of America. Every time we're going to hear this is the most important election. Every election they say is the most important one. The country moves forward, and God's still on his throne.
And how do you maintain that? Because, so many Americans that without the credentials are passionate about politics. It's like they care, Christians in particular, care about the direction of the country. So how do you temper your emotions?
It's good to care. But I think, I always think of Augustine. Augustine wrote this majestic work, The City of God, and he tells us that we as Christians have basically one eye on the earthly kingdom and one eye on the heavenly kingdom. And if we misthink, if we put both eyes in one or the other, we're losing our responsibilities and our obligations. So if we're focused completely on the heavenly kingdom, that we forget to pursue justice here on earth, we've failed to some extent. If we focus completely on the earthly kingdom and forget what God's doing overall, then certainly we're too wrapped up in the here and now. And so there's this constant balance that you have to strive for. And so I'm not saying it's easy, but I think that's our goal. And I think Augustine was a good model of it, and I think that should be one of our virtues that we try to pursue as believers.
So then, I guess at the very ground level, let's just say the Supreme Court decides this soon. They'll eventually decide it, regardless.
Yep.
Talk to the person who's really happy or really mad about their decision. Now, they're a follower of Jesus.
Yeah.
What's your advice to both?
Yeah. If you're really happy, I'm sorry, but in the future, this is going to be used against you. So whatever happens, the other side is going to use it against you at some point. And so I appreciate that you're happy, but this is a temporary victory, most likely, no matter what the outcome is. If you're sad about it, there's a path forward no matter what. There really is. And our politics will recover no matter what. Whether you think he should be banned or not banned, our politics will recover regardless. And so I tend to still have some faith and hope in the American people, believe it or not. And sometimes it's hard to do that, but I think we're going to be good politically.
And God's sovereignty, correct me if I'm wrong,
Absolutely.
extends to the outcome.
Absolutely.
So whatever the outcome is, God ordained it.
Absolutely. And I can take some comfort and some hope in that as well.
There you go. All right. Well, we did it. Look at us.
Everybody's an expert now. That's great.
Yeah. And we're both still here, and the world didn't end. So we made it. Okay. So, again, Dr. Mark Caleb Smith is Dean of the School of Arts and Humanities and Professor of Political Science and Director of the Center for Political Studies at Cedarville University. For more information, I highly encourage you to go to cedarville.edu. Again, cedarville.edu. As always, I'm grateful you're willing to let me ask you some of the hardest questions.
It really
anyone
is,
can
it
grapple
is a
with.
good time. It's a lot of fun, so it's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much, brother.
Yep. See ya.
See ya. Oof, we did it.
Yeah. Well done.
Well, to God be the glory. I used to love talking politics. I don't like it. I mean, I like it in its concept, but people get so crazy about it these days. I'm not looking for crazy. I'm not trying to promote crazy. I want understanding while consistently pointing to God's sovereignty in our lives and yielding to his sovereignty. Like, I loved his message. It's going to be okay. Like, really, it's going to be all right.
Someone needed to hear that today.
Lord willing. Just breathe it in, Again, thanks to Dr. Smith for all that. All right, it's 8:02. We're going to shift gears here in just a moment. We are going to bring in David Szfranski, president and founder of Edgewater Investment Group. He's ready to answer your financial questions. You can call or text right now with those, and we'll line them up. Again, financial questions, you got them? Call or text right now, 440-546-2255. 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the Middle East working to strike a deal to free the remaining hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. It's 8:03. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. Following a meeting in Tel Aviv with Israel's prime minister, Blinken said Hamas's response to a proposal to pause the fighting with Israel opens room for a hostage deal. He added, however, there are some clear non-starters in the militant group's response, but negotiations will continue. And the state fire marshal's office is offering a $5,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of an arsonist. Authorities are looking for the person responsible for setting a fire last weekend that destroyed a vacant house in Warren. It's the second time that house has been targeted. I'll be right back with sports and weather.
Today's culture is slipping farther away from God's truth, and the church is in dire need of godly, well-trained Christian leaders rooted in God's Word. With your bachelor's degree in ministry leadership from Moody Bible Institute, you'll be equipped to tackle the challenges ahead. What's more, you can customize the program, choosing an emphasis that matches your passion, whether that's preaching, ministry to women, children, or family ministry. Learn more about this online degree program by going to moody.edu/ministry leadership.
In sports, the Cavaliers extended their winning streak to 7 as they defeated the Wizards 114-106. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Partly sunny with highs around 60 degrees. Nice. And at last check, mostly cloudy, 43 in Cleveland, cloudy and 37 in Akron and Canton. Clear skies in Lorain, Elyria, where it is 40 degrees.
It's time for your moron moment.
To most Polish Americans, Punchki Day means making a ton of punchki and binge eating them in the company of family and friends. This day is celebrated the Thursday before Lent. That's today. And since Lent is a time of sacrifice, punchki were created to use up the household supplies of things that the family would not be able to eat during Lenten fasting. Punchki Day is the perfect excuse, as if we needed one, to enjoy this famous, delicious Polish pastry. Similar to a donut, punchki are a sugary pastry that combines glossy doughs and a delicious fruit filling. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 8:05. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live. Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
expressed during this program represent the opinions of the participants and is given for informational purposes only. Any information provided is not intended to replace professional advice for your specific situation.
It's time. He's here. David Szfranski, president and founder of Edgewater Investment Group, is going to answer your financial questions. Hey!
I think one day I'm going to bring in my accordion and play a little bit.
Do you have an accordion?
No. But most Polish people do. My dad played
You can
the
borrow
accordion.
one.
He did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys do polkas and everything at home?
We still do polkas at home. Silly.
It's part of your bedtime routine?
What do you think Polish people do at home? We do polkas and we eat pierogies and kielbasa all day.
David, it's time for bed. Brush your teeth, do a polka, and get to bed.
You know, there's a reason that in the middle of winter, if you see a station wagon full of Polish people drive by, the windows are probably rolled down. There's a reason.
Smells like kielbasa.
Yes. Well, or worse.
And Ron's moron moment today was about punchkis. Is that?
Yeah.
I think we've decided that's how you say that. Would
you
you
can't
agree
see
with
Ron
that?
anymore in your new seat.
I can't see Ron, and I'm very disappointed.
The people can see Ron, and that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. I don't know if that's the exact way you pronounce it.
How do you say it?
I don't. I really don't. I don't. I try and eat pretty clean, and donuts, essentially, are not the cleanest thing. So You're
so healthy, Dave.
Well, no, that's not actually true, but I'm trying to be healthy.
Good for you.
And so I limit sugar and things like that because it's just better for me. I don't drink pop. Haven't drank pop for a long time.
That's too bad.
I know. I love it so much.
It's excellent, actually.
It's one of the.
That's excellent.
Sometimes when I'm in Brazil, they have this soda there that I really like, and I'll drink it there. And I remember how much I loved it so much. It's so hard not to drink, and I love it so much.
Well, Daria's done all the research on sugar. You said you've been digging into it, right? And
It's probably the worst part of our diets. It's absolutely toxic for you. Like, we're talking added sugar. It's more addictive than cocaine.
That's why I like it so much.
It just rots your insides.
Yeah, if you it creates inflammation. So if you're like stiff muscles and things like that all the time, if you cut out some sugar, you'll probably feel a lot better. So I'm not like a health nut or anything like that. I mean, I exercise and do things like that, but where it's practical to cut out some things, I try and do those things.
And I don't. Here we are, 440-546-2255, 440-546-2255. Financial questions for David Szfranski.
How much extra money should you put towards your house to try to pay it off in 8 years before retirement?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people wonder about this, Dave, right? Quick pay off the house before retirement.
Yes.
That's what they want to do because they don't want the house payment on retirement.
Yeah, I think that is a wise decision. Now, limiting your debts because you have this wage replacement ratio that we're going to talk about in retirement where you say, well, okay, I'm not saving to my 401k anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have FICA taxes anymore because you don't have a FICA tax on a pension plan. And so you're cutting out some of the costs. And
a lot of
people, they don't spend a lot of money on work clothes. You've never spent money on work clothes once in your life.
No, I actually go every couple of years. I go, I just can't keep doing this. And when I look in my closet and I go to like Walmart and buy a few more shirts.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. So, but normal people spend money on work clothes.
They do.
And so those expenses will be gone. And those big debts like cars and houses and things like that, it is kind of nice to have those paid off. And so
they got 8 years.
So they got 8 years. So how many months is that, Brian?
It's
96.
8 times 12.
96 months. You got 96 months to go. And you take that number that you have, you could do an amortization schedule. You could just do this online. If you go to Google or you have a financial calculator on your phone or you own a financial calculator like, an HP 12B12.
TI-85 is what a lot of people have.
So you just type in amortization schedule, and you could put in there, based on your interest rate and the amount of time that you have left, here's what it's going to take to pay that off in 8 years. Now, I want to caution you on something, too, because to me, this is a math problem in the sense that if you have a really low mortgage, if you were one of those people like us who are kind of handcuffed to your house now, where you've got a 2% mortgage.
Sorry, Lauren.
Sorry.
Losers.
Sorry, Laura Chavez. This mythical person that works here. But if you have that 2% mortgage, I want you to consider some other options, and maybe not having it totally paid off, because remember, you could beat 2% in a money market or a government bond, two guaranteed things. So the money that you're spending against your mortgage, yeah, I like that. I like paying down debt. I like being debt free. But I also like kind of considering the interest rates and what the other possibilities are. So it's not as easy anymore. When Larry Burkett was on the radio 20 years ago and interest rates were at 14%, it was easy. Just pay that mortgage off as fast as you can. But at
you
2%,
keep complaining.
I have never once complained.
Well, I guess that's true. I complain for you. actually.
Never once have you complained?
When it first happened, and that was it.
Oh,
yeah.
So once.
About it. That's her thing. She complains once and she's done.
What is your interest rate? What is your
7.5?
Okay.
Or maybe 7.25, something like that.
Historically, a little higher than average, but not the worst mortgage
No,
rate.
it's
But
not.
when you put it in perspective, if you look at it like the mortgage rate that Brian and I,
Exactly.
we're like the smartest people ever to get those mortgage rates.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah,
That's correct.
Mhm.
You finally agree with me.
Yeah, well, we're both pretty smart.
We're
So-
both very smart.
So it's
yes.
almost free money. So what you're saying, why would you pay it off that quickly?
Well, I understand why they would pay it off, because they don't want that debt, that burden over their head when their retirement income is probably conceivably lower than their work life income.
Sure.
So looking at those things, I think it's a great time to take a snapshot of your finances and decide, okay, how do we want to proceed from here? And what's the smartest decision with our money? Because 8 years away, you could still be saving in the market and making a lot of money instead of allocating it towards a low-price mortgage.
Gotcha.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, 8:16, time for a quick break. When we come back, more of your financial questions for the David Szfranski, president and founder of Edgewater Investment Group, and we'll get to all of that. What?
You forgot about this.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, boy. Yeah, go to the live stream. He bought another sash for himself.
He told me to close my eyes when I went out there to get him, and I was very scared.
What did you?
He said, close your eyes. I don't know. He said, close your eyes. And I said, Alan, help. What's he doing to me?
Come on.
Yeah, I don't think I'd comply
I don't know
with
if he's
that
going to punch
request from you.
me or
Yeah.
What?
kick my knees in.
Throw water on you.
Yeah. Give me like a chinchilla to hold. I don't know.
Yeah,
Chinchilla?
We don't know. It could be. He's listening. Maybe an armadillo.
Yeah.
440-546-2255. More financial questions for Dave coming up.
You have less than a month to prepare to gather with like-minded men facing similar challenges and needing encouragement like you. Walk-Worthy 2024 is Saturday, March 2nd at Canton Baptist Temple. It will feature Mark Joe, James Ford, and Nick Gatsky giving powerful messages as well as time for worship and food. Don't miss out. Register now. Text WALK to 440-546-2255 or go to moodyconferences.com.
Prayer. It's the bridge between your panic attack and the peace of God that passes all understanding. If you'd like our staff to pray for you, email your request to prayerworks@moody.edu.
A recent study shows that the average resolution lasts just 3.5 months. Do you know why? Because you place the pressure on an imperfect person, you. I'm Josh, station manager of Moody Radio Cleveland. Do something different this year. Exchange your resolution for expectation. 1 Peter 5:7 says, "Cast all your care on him because he cares about you. God, who never sleeps or slumbers, will not fail or quit on you." Try that on for size. Thanks for listening to Moody Radio Cleveland.
Helping you take the next step in your walk with Jesus. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
821 WCRF Mornings with Brian. We've got the Walkworthy Men's Conference coming in just a few weeks, Saturday, March 2nd, Canton Baptist Temple.
Oh.
There may be a Dave Szfranski sighting.
Yeah, I'm going to go.
You're going?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Oh, wow.
Ooh. Can I point you
Alert
out?
the press.
I think you should bring me up on stage.
We
so
are the
people
press,
can
Lauren.
cheer for me.
Alert Brian.
What happened?
I said alert the press, and Dari said we are the press.
Oh, goodness. Well, Dave, I'm not going to let you on stage. That's
I'm going to just walk up on stage. You can't stop me. What are you going to do?
Lauren will stop you.
I'm not in charge. Not there.
You're in charge everywhere.
Well.
She can't argue with that.
Deny.
So
There's
get
no
your
denial.
ticket today. You hang out with Dave Szfranski. You know, we'll point him out so you can give him a big long hug.
I'm going to
if
be
you'd
up
like
on
to.
stage.
So text WALK to 440-546-2255. Text WALK to 440-546-2255. All right, financial questions.
I am 43-ish. and my company's 401k plan just offered the ability to do a Roth IRA as well as a traditional. At my age, is it worth it to open a Roth or just stick with the traditional?
I like doing both. I like that you have a regular 401k now, and you've got a lot of work years left. I mean, conceivably, I don't know if this is a secret. I don't know if I'm about to upset you, but typically about 22 years of work life, 65 is your retirement age. Now, you might not stay that long, but that's a long time to save money. So
Yeah.
I would definitely consider the Roth version. So the Roth IRA, the Roth 401k is particularly fascinating to me because I don't believe Congress really understands the total impact of what they did, because usually they just want more money. And so if you save in a Roth IRA, a Roth 401k, whatever it is, you put the money in, you don't get a current tax deduction for it. So it's included in your gross income. But all the growth comes out tax-free, and there's no required minimum distribution on it. None. And it's really easy to leave to the next generation, much more so than a regular IRA or 401k. So I like that tax law. Now, if you were 62 and you were going to retire at 64, I'd probably say, probably not. But at 43-ish, yes, I would definitely consider it.
So if you round up as much as Dave, don't do it.
Because I'm 45-ish.
Okay. 440-546-2255. Let's go to Rebecca in Oberlin. What's your question for Dave? Rebecca?
Hello.
Hi. What's your question for Dave?
Hi. So I have investments that I inherited from my mother when she passed, and they're over at, can I say the name of the bank?
Up to you.
J.P. Morgan.
Okay.
And I just found out my advisor just up and left. And looking at my portfolio and stuff, he didn't do anything. And I kind of I know it's my fault for not being involved, but, I kind of trusted him to be invested in the right way and things like that. Never really got back to me, and I didn't realize that he should have been checking in with me. I've got a $30,000 loss now on my accounts, and just wondering what can I do about it? And do I just go somewhere else? Do I trust the new advisor? I'm a little leery now.
Yeah, that's a great question. I like that. First of all, J.P. Morgan as a company is a good company. They're a huge bank. They're what we call a money center bank. But it really, the question and the issue that she's having really kind of goes to the issue of they may be a great company and they may be a great bank. Those things are correct. However, the person that you're dealing with may not be as good at what they're doing as you had hoped for. So
Right.
it really,
and that's true across the board for everything.
it's true across
Yeah.
the board, yes. You could have a great company and you could have a disinterested advisor or somebody that's just maybe their heart isn't in it. Maybe they don't like what they do. There's a lot of reasons why people don't do a great job. And I think the next step for her is to find somebody that she can trust. Somebody, and it's not uncommon to have a loss in a portfolio. You know, I look at some of our larger portfolios, and I have some losses in portfolios. It's not uncommon. That's why you diversify, because some stuff is going to win at times and some stuff isn't. And sometimes it'll be the exact opposite. Sometimes they'll all be winning together. Sometimes they're all losing together. So it doesn't mean that he is a bad advisor because you have a loss in there, but being properly diversified, checking in with people, doing somewhat. Sometimes people will do an annual meeting just to say, hey, has anything changed? Is there anything we need to know about? So I think what I would do for her is I would focus on finding somebody that you could trust, that you feel good about. You don't have to be on their Christmas card list or vice versa, but it's good if you want to see that person. If it's like going to get a root canal every time you go see your financial advisor, you're probably with the wrong person, even if they're good at what they do.
Yeah.
So I've had people come to me and say, well, my last advisor said, don't ever call me. I don't want to hear from you. It's like, wow, that guy has said everything every financial advisor thinks. However, most don't say it. You gotta, I think there's got to be a little simpatico there. And, being your supreme leader, as I am.
Go to the live stream if you want to
I
understand.
order you to find somebody you could get along with as your supreme leader.
Text live to 440-546-2255 to get to the live stream and understand more clearly what Dave is saying as he went to pleasemakemea.customsash.com to say whatever I want.
I don't know why you think those things happen, Brian.
/
I don't know. I have been anointed the supreme leader.
By yourself.
By the Sash Company.
By the Sash Company, yeah. Lauren.
What's a good health insurance to get right now, Dave?
The health insurance that you could get right now. That's if you go on the exchange in Ohio, you're going to see a lot of companies that you've never heard of.
The exchange.
What's that?
It's the Obamacare, the health insurance exchanges in Ohio. If you have a small business, I think it's a little bit better to do it through your business because you can, for instance, if you buy a policy from Cleveland Clinic, you can only use the Cleveland Clinic. And if you buy a health insurance policy from like university hospitals, you could only use university hospitals. But if you get a policy through a small business employer or something like that, and it's a Med Mutual, for instance, you can use anybody. And so there's a lot of ways to do it. I think the exchanges really hurt health insurance in general. I don't think it worked out like they had hoped it would. It's expensive, it's arduous, and I just don't love what we have. It was so much better before. It's just we blew up the whole system because a very small percentage of people didn't have health insurance, and we could have just covered them. It would have been way better. What we have now is a broken system. I don't know if it's ever going to change.
Let's go to Brenda in Akron. Hey, Brenda, what's your question for David Szfranski, president and founder of Edgewater Investment Group?
Hi, actually, this is Brenda from Doylestown. I've talked to you
Brenda.
before.
Hey.
It's okay. So my question is about inherited IRAs. I have one that I inherited from my mother who died in 2015, and I was 50-something-ish when she passed away.
Brenda,
And
you
I-
started a trend, I love you.
And it was mandatory that I start taking a distribution on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of my age, I am taking a distribution based on my age.
Yes.
So 4 years ago when my father passed away, I received an inherited IRA, and the rules for that one are different
Yes.
in that one has to be depleted within 10 years.
Correct.
All right. So right now it's been 4 years. I have not taken any distribution on that. My husband retired this year or end of last year, so he's on, Social Security. And I'm planning to retire next year, and I'll have Social Security and OPERS. So I'm wondering what your advice is about, should I break that down equal parts per year, or what is your recommendation?
Well, I like what you did by not taking it out yet because you probably had higher income when your husband was working while you're working. So if you wait till you have, your OPERS pension is going to be lower than your OPERS pay. So I think I would wait until you're retired and your income drops because it'll have less of a tax impact on you to take that money out. And then you really have a couple of choices. There's a lot of disagreement in the investment community about what that rule actually means. Does it mean that you have to take 1/10 out every year, or do you have to have it out at 10 years? The IRS hasn't really ruled on it, so you could take it all out in 1 year if you wanted to, but what I'd want to do is you got to take the money out. That's not a question. How can we do it so it lowers the impact of your taxes? So let's say you're in the 20% tax bracket, 22% tax bracket, or whatever, and you take it all out in 1 year and it pushes you up to a higher tax bracket. Now, tax brackets are marginal, which means that, in between this amount and that amount, you pay the same percentage of tax. If you go over an amount, then you're paying a higher percentage on the money that you earned over that amount. So I don't want to push you into a higher tax bracket by taking money out. So I would break it up to make it as least painful as possible.
All right.
That's how I would do it.
There it is. Thanks for your strategery there. It is 8:32. Time for a quick break. More questions and answers from Dave Szfranski, president and founder of Edgewater Investment Group. You could call or text in right now, 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Sanctus Real, WCRF. It's 8:39. Dave Szfranski answering your financial questions. Hot tip. Hot tip. What? Oh, yeah. He's got a sash on that says Supreme Leader. I don't even know what to do about it. Just go to the live stream and you can see more about that. Hot tip. My wife, Sarah, is our follow-up Friday guest tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
She's not my Supreme Leader. I was not going to say that.
Yes, she is.
Well, okay, fine.
That's what you think.
Well, she'll be on the show all
Should I
morning.
leave this sash for her?
So if Dave from Vermilion calls, I should be concerned, right? Tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Financial questions. 440-546-2255.
I'm 69 years old and in good health. I currently have variable annuity with Jackson Life that performs well.
Mm-hmm.
My advisor recommends moving it to Alliance Index-linked annuity with which features a long-term health care provision. I'm not sure what to do.
Okay, the annuities. No, it's not really. What I see. So, sorry, sorry, Brian, you're mistaken once again. So you have an annuity. It's doing okay. The advisor wants to move it because there's a long-term care provision in the new annuity where they'll let you have some access to it. I don't like moving an annuity that's out of surrender penalties and is performing well. I think that's a commission grab. And I don't think that I would do it. Now, you could go to Jackson National and they might be able to add that to your current annuity. They might. A lot of times when you do a transfer internally, you keep your same, if you're out of surrender penalty and you get a different annuity inside the same company, a lot of times you'll be able to keep that 100% access. So I would check Jackson. It's a good company. And, I don't have a great love for annuities, but I understand that there's a marketplace for them and there is a place for annuities. And it's small, it's niche-y, but there is a place for them. So, and Jackson's a good company. So I would call the company. Don't go through your advisor on this one. Go through the company because they want to keep the money and they want to keep your money there. And there might be a way to satisfy that long-term care aspect at Jackson without a new commission, without new surrender penalties, and you would have access to your money.
So there it is.
Okay, next question is from Facebook. Or Facebook Live feed.
Facebook Live. Oh,
he's flexing for the camera. Please don't.
Okay.
The weight room is not that direction. People like, it's over there.
Wow, okay. My son passed away, leaving me the inherited beneficiary of his 401 plan. I rolled it over but received a 1099-R. Do I pay taxes on it now or on the portion when I have to take distribution?
So on a rollover, if it was a direct rollover, right from the 401k, right to an IRA, there's no tax due. A 1099-R might have been issued if you had the check made out to you and then you put it into the IRA, because if it was mailed directly to you, they withheld 20%. So it depends on how the check was made out, how the rollover occurred. You generally will pay tax if it was a direct rollover right from the 401k right to your IRA. The check wasn't made out to you, it was made out for the benefit of you. You'll pay tax when the money comes out. So if there was a 20% withholding, you can get that money back, but it's in the IRS pool for your taxes now. So if you owed taxes, it's gonna, let's say the 20% withheld was $10,000 and you owe $10,000 in taxes. They're going to tell you don't owe any money. It's already paid. If you don't owe any tax, or you usually get a refund, friends don't let friends get refunds, so don't get a refund. If you owe the government a little bit of money, it's okay because they don't really pay you a lot of interest on your money. And there's been years where they said, oh, by the way, we don't have the money to pay you, so we're going to make you wait. Don't get a refund. If you're getting $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 worth of refunds, and people do this all the time, they're like, oh, this is my vacation fund.
But you're losing money throughout the year.
You're losing money throughout the year.
You'd like it to be as even as possible, right?
Yes.
You'd like to get $2 back.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to smack your knuckles with a ruler.
Yeah.
Okay? We're going to make this painful because it's painful for me, so it's going to be painful for you. And we're going to change that. We're going to change your withholding so you don't get that big refund.
Well, some people, though, who are in a particular tax bracket and have lots of children, sometimes you can't help it.
You can't help. I understand that.
Because you get money back that you never contributed.
If you'd like to talk about this more, we're going to have a workshop on April 16th that you can come to.
April 16th, Dave's doing a workshop. Where is it again?
In Elyria, Ohio.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about managing your money in an election year. You know, there's a lot of moving parts right now in the economy. I think the Fed's kind of backed up against the wall. As you know, the Fed chairman, what's his name, Brian? Chair Powell!
Oh, great heavens.
Wow.
You broke Ron's equipment.
Look at the radio tower fell.
Yes.
It's going down.
He had a press
tower
conference. He had a press conference, and I think they're a little. I think they missed an opportunity for a rate hike, and that has kept inflation, the rate of inflation, higher than what they want. But in a lot of sense, if you believe the government data, which I tend to discount, no matter who's in the White House, because they're always going to show you data that looks good for them mostly. If the economy is growing, if the market's good, if unemployment is low, the Fed doesn't need to cut rates. The Fed doesn't need to cut rates. Chair Powell doesn't need to do anything.
Dave.
Ow.
Yes.
So we're not going to cut rates. But if he does, inflation is going to perk up again. We're kind of in almost a stagflation moment.
Stagflation.
Yeah. Stagnating economy with inflation. Very insidious.
Ooh.
It's a tug of war. The Fed is on one side. The economy and inflation is on the other side. If he cuts rates, he raises inflation. Well, we already have. Go to the grocery store. You go to $8 grapes.
They're back up.
You texted me $8 grapes. I didn't believe you.
Yeah, you don't believe,
I get a lot of texts from people. $8 grapes isn't usually one of them.
Just be like me. Just be like me.
But from Laura
foods,
Chavez.
Processed foods. Forget about fruits. Don't even save money. Go ahead.
Have you ever had a toddler? All they eat is fruits and berries.
Yeah, that makes for a messy diaper. Give that kid some meat. Get something solid
he's
in
not
there.
in diapers anymore.
But everything's expensive, and if he lowers rates, everything's going to get more expensive.
Yeah.
So the housing market's kind of slowing down a little bit, but we have a lack of supply in a lot of areas, so that's keeping sales going. But mortgage rates are high, and so what are we going to do? We're going to talk about that in April.
All right.
We're about to take a break, but I need to say this comment.
What?
Someone said, my 2-year-old just said, Chair Powell.
That kid is a genius. That kid is a genius.
Someone else said they were scared by Dave's outburst.
Me too.
Me three.
I said, how do you think we feel?
Chair
with headphones?
Powell.
All right, we'll be back with Pirate Dave, who will scream at unknown moments throughout the rest of the program. Stick around, Dave Szfranski, 440-546-2255.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
Attention all high school students and parents. We invite you to visit Moody's campus in the heart of downtown Chicago, in person or virtually. Experience life as a Moody student by scheduling an individual visit to campus with your family. We are excited to welcome you to learn more about whether Moody is right for you and your student. Meet with an admissions counselor and sit in on class in person or through Zoom. Schedule your campus visit today at moody.edu/experience Moody.
When CareNet conducted a national survey of hundreds of women who'd had an abortion, a stunning statistic emerged. 4 out of 10 women who chose an abortion were regularly attending a church at the time. Abortion isn't just an out-there issue in the community, it's inside the church. Making Life Disciples is an exclusive CareNet curriculum designed to equip churches to provide compassion, hope, help, and discipleship to women and men considering abortion. Making Life Disciples is a simple, easy-to-access training that allows your church to begin a gospel-centered approach to caring for the abortion vulnerable. Transform your church's response to abortion, form a network of security for people at risk, and become a central point of compassion in your community. Learn more about the Making Life Disciples curriculum at care-net.org. Search Making Life Disciples at care-net.org.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
8:49. We've got a live stream as well. And if you were watching carefully, you'd notice I forget sometimes that I'm on a live stream. And
I intentionally try to forget.
oh yeah, I do too sometimes. Well, this time Dave was talking all of his acronyms and maths. And I just like sort of daydreaming.
He almost fell out of his chair.
I took off my glasses, I rubbed my eye, and I yawned really big without making a sound because it's radio. And then I go, oh wait, I'm on camera.
What was that thud? O'Brien fell off his chair again. He fell asleep while I was talking.
So you got to watch this. 440-546-2255.
I have a traditional IRA, retired from Southwest Hospital after 25 years.
Congratulations.
I retired in 2000. I'm about to turn 70, and I have $90,000 in my traditional IRA, which I rolled over from my 403B. I don't want to touch this money. I want to leave it for my 2 kids. Would it be wise for me to do a Roth IRA right now, or am I really not earning that much money? I have a traditional IRA at my church credit union because I wanted to be safe and not gamble the money away. But I also, if I did a Roth, I understand it would be tax-free for them. What would you suggest?
Well, congratulations on retirement.
Woo.
25 years at a hospital. I was going to be a doctor, actually. But I realized sick people disgust me, and I don't want to be around them. So I thought maybe that's not the best
pretty
career
crucial.
choice.
Pretty crucial, yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's so gross. Everybody's sick. Everybody's sick. Leaving your IRA to your kids is not the best idea. For one thing, it's 100% taxable to them. And they have 10 years to pull it out. So no matter when they get the money, they have a 10-year window where that money's got to come out. And it's going to be 100% taxable. So in general, what I recommend people do
Give them all the money right now. If my parents are listening, just give it right now.
If
right?
you're Brian's parents, for one thing, his brother is not that smart. And Brian's way smarter.
That's true.
And he deserves to be the executor and be the 100% beneficiary.
You'd be surprised to know I'm not the executor. Jacob is. Okay, but anyway, so
you owe me $20.
Where should this person put it if it's not in an IRA?
Well, if you can convert it to a Roth, but it's taxable. Okay, so you're going to pay the tax now, and you can convert it to a Roth. So that's one idea. It's way easier to leave a Roth IRA than it is to leave a regular IRA. If there's other monies to leave, I would leave the other monies, and I would spend this money because it's so hard to leave this money in a way that there's discretion in how it's spent because the government is telling you, you got to spend it in 10 years. You don't have to spend it, but you got to take it out in 10 years and it's going to be taxable. So
what are some other good places to put it then, if not there?
Well, that's the place to put it. It came from a 403B.
Well, no,
so it's going to go.
But like these other monies, like what are other types of savings that you can leave to your kids without much hassle?
Life insurance is the best thing. Life insurance.
Is it? Wow. Like whole
pays,
life or something?
Well, it depends on the person how much they want to spend. But life insurance, you buy a policy and it's got a $3 million death benefit. And you write the check, and as you write the check, you have a heart attack and die. They're paying $3 million. It's the best investment you ever made. And it pays tax-free. Life insurance is the single best way to leave somebody money. Now, you could leave them a house. It's got stepped-up basis. You could leave them stocks. They have stepped-up basis. Real property has stepped-up basis. If you leave your family a Ferrari, stepped-up basis. So they don't pay taxes. So whatever you bought it at and what it's worth now, they inherited it at what it's worth now. That's the stepped-up basis. Congress has tried several times to do away with that tax law, but you need stepped-up basis. The wealth creation really comes from mom and dad bought a house for $12,000 or $15,000. It's now worth in Florida $1.7 million. They haven't done anything. It's still got the same wallpaper on it. The kids inherit that. They sell it. Now they got $1.7 million. Now there's wealth.
So now, for those who want to watch the inheritance kind of impact their kids' lives, you can give a certain dollar amount tax-free. I'm not just being silly.
$16,000.
So you can write a check for $16,000?
Yeah, but if it comes out of the IRA, it's taxable.
Okay.
So any money that comes out of that IRA is taxable, every single dollar. And so when we're doing planning for people, I want to get different tax laws involved. So yeah, a lot of people have 401ks and IRAs, and so then I want to get the Roth tax law involved, and then I want to just get checkbook money. So a non-qualified, a joint account if you're married, or a individual account, a brokerage account where you're putting money in every month and you're buying stocks, bonds, mutual funds, whatever. You're building a portfolio. So you have these different tax laws. So when you hit 65 or you're about to assume room temperature, there's some variety of tax law involved, and it kind of lessens the impact for the next generation, if that's what you care about. Some people say, look, I'm going to spend all the money. I don't care what my kids get. Well, that's a different choice.
I have a quick tax question because it's tax season, okay? My husband's employer doesn't withhold enough federal tax from his pay, and we end up owing $4,000 every year. What are our options to pay that throughout the year to prevent owing so much?
You can do a quarterly payment to the IRS. You can go on irs.gov. You can set up an account, and you can make quarterly payments to your taxes.
And
it's that easy.
Shouldn't they also maybe, adjust their withholdings?
You can adjust your W-9 with your employer to withhold more money. Yes.
And that might be the easiest way to do it, right?
It probably is the easiest way to do it.
Just a form with HR, right?
Depends on your HR department, as we've spoken about today.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, 440-546-2255. Let's go to Grayson in Cleveland. What's your question for Dave Szfranski?
Yeah, how are you doing?
Good.
Okay, my question is, I got a zero interest rate on a loan from a bank, and it's right where I could pay less than $100 a month back. But problem I have is I got another one that's a credit card payment. I owe $12,000 plus on it, and I wanted to know, should I combine those two or go to Christian Credit Counseling so I could get that straightened out so I don't have that debt? What do you think?
Well, it surprises me that a bank gives you 0% on anything because banks don't make money at 0%.
That's a good deal.
Well, 0%?
Yeah, I'll take that.
I'll take that all day long.
That's what you call free money. Don't liquidate that particular debt, right?
I would pay more on the $12,000 debt with a higher interest rate. So it does not matter the balance. What matters is the interest rate because it's all money and it's all kind of in the same pot of your debt. The highest interest rates are the ones that you take care of first. The
As quickly as
highest
possible.
interest rate. Yes.
So you're saying minimum payment on the $100?
Minimum payment on the 100, maximum on the 12. Work the 12 down. Allow that 0% to cook as long as possible, and give the bullet to the high interest rate first. Yeah, that's what I say is your supreme leader.
Oh, okay.
See, it's official.
It's official.
We have time for one more, or do I need to make my announcement that I've found a new way to not forget if you're watching the live stream?
I'll do one more and then we'll do the announcement. My retirement is held with Empower. With Empower.
Yep.
They just restructured my funds, and there's a significant percentage of my funds within their company. Isn't it a red flag as they are fiduciary?
If it's a money market, if it's the Empower money market, no.
Okay.
It's probably not in Empower stock. But the Empower, I've seen this 401k several times. Not my favorite, but it's out there. It's what you got. You don't really have a choice. Your employer decides that. They have a lot of the target date funds, which I hate. I'd rather do a portfolio in some. A lot of times they have Fidelity. They'll have Dodge and Cox. They'll have some Vanguard funds in there, and I think I'd rather build a portfolio in there. So depending on your age, I think you need to be growth oriented because if you're under the age of 70, you're going to live to be 95, and that money's got to outpace inflation, which is very high right now. It's got to grow. It must grow. It has to grow. You owe it to yourself to grow that money. Don't lose this chance to restructure your portfolio and get it in some growth-oriented stuff and beat inflation.
All right. So I've got a note on my face, literally, to not forget this, because Lauren and I are both trying to find out how I can be reminded and not forget things. We
Pink
have
sticky
some
notes are
winners.
not working yet.
Yeah, like I've told my wife you've tried like 6 different things, and
I've tried highlighting.
Imagine being married to me.
How about a shock collar?
No, thank you.
Shock collar.
You almost need one of those for me. So now we have some winners to announce.
Yeah, some winners from the Valentine's Day giveaway. It was a $75 gift card for dinner and a movie, a little date. Someone
That'll
hasn't
get you half a
replied yet,
dinner.
so check your texts, okay? One of you hasn't replied yet, so we're only announcing 4.
So here they are, the 4 winners, because one of you doesn't check your text messages. Julia from West Salem, Monica in Youngstown, Shirley in Hartville, and Stephen and Lucas.
And Shirley's taking her husband Al, and she said,
Shirley, you can't be serious.
Don't call me Shirley.
Yes, thank you.
Check your text messages. You might be that last winner. Thanks to all who participated. And Lauren, I think we've discovered our new system.
yeah, just put it on your face.
Put it on my face.
Yeah. Anything to cover your face, I think, is a good idea.
Well played, Dave.
Boom.
No, I lost it. Okay. Dave, thanks for coming in. Dave Szfranski, president and founder of Edgewater Investment Group. If you want to connect with Dave, best way to do it, come to us. We'll connect you with Mr.
As
Davey.
your supreme leader, I thank you. Thank you very much.
If you want to take a big risk in your life, go watch a live stream. I can't promise it's not going to be transformative in a negative way, but you never know.
You never know.
When Dave's on, you never know. 2-year-olds everywhere are yelling